We begin high in the sky. The crystal blue of the sky above is divided only by the white of the scattering of clouds below. As we fly through the air, below on the clouds, which grow ever closer, we can see the occasional flitting and dancing of two large shadows. We dip down through the clouds, the cool mist of the vapors spreading across us as we break through the cloud layer, and we see thousands of feet below the landscape. The closer we get, the faster it seems to move by. We're above an ocean, moving towards the shoreline. We can see mountains covered in snow off in the distance. We're over a beach, then we're over a forest, trees rapidly zooming by below us, and still those two shadows flitting amongst one another, back and forth, dance from the high noon sun. As we grow ever closer to the ground, the forests and the trees give way to rolling hills and grasslands, occasional sparse homesteads of humans and humanoids, cattle, sheep, auroch grazing in the fields. Soon we're zooming just barely above the occasional treetop as we begin to see in the not too far distance the jagged orange and red peaks of desert rock formations formed by thousands of years of sandstorms and high winds. Rolling grass hills soon turn into rolling sand dunes. And just as the sand dunes begin to give way to the southern badlands, we bank sharp to the right and head towards a lone, solitary tower, hundreds of feet high, made of the same red and orange sandstone. We begin slowly to circle around it. When we've made a complete lap around the circle, we zoom high into the sky and then quickly arc down straight at the tower, where we can see a narrow tunnel. In a moment, we are plunged into darkness as we dip into this tunnel. Arcs of blue electrical energy, the only illumination, as we catch a glimpse of a glinting eye, a shimmering scale, a sharp talon. So attuned to these tunnels that we don't touch the sides. And in just a moment of zipping through twisting labyrinthine tunnels, we emerge into a cavernous room lit with bioluminescent fungi. And the light bounces off of a meager hoard piled in the corner, piled high with treasures and gems, weapons and armor, some of which still has the remains of its previous occupant. And as the camera comes to a gliding halt in the center of the cavern, we see the two shadows zoom past toward the hoard. Two young blue dragons dip low over the hoard and simultaneously dump massive amounts of jewels and treasure, adding to this meager hoard. And as they flare their wings Tell me, Locrius the Nefarious and Chatarax the Mimic, what are you two young dragon brothers talking about?
We hear the clatter of 1,000, no, 10,000 gold coins scatter across the floor as the resplendent and devilishly handsome blue dragon, Locrius the Nefarious, screeches to a halt in front of their horde. He's been carrying it in what looks like a very, very finely crafted Persian-style carpet, and lackadaisically he tosses it over his shoulder as he leans back, exposing his soft underbelly, and turns to his brother and says, "Well, Chatarax, it's a paltry haul as usual."
And Chatarax, slightly uncomfortable with his brother's devilish charm, he grins to himself as he lands, also dropping another slew of coins and jewels, and this time carried by a large cauldron. Something that had most obviously come from a king's castle, a massive, almost beacon for any of their banquets. He just pours out the coins and says, brother, it is on days like this that I admire you for your art. However, let us be reminded of which one of us is most... I believe, and he sort of also mimics your falling back into the coins. I believe, if memory serves me correct, and he scratches his stomach with a claw, I was the first to break out of our nest.
We see Locrius's nostrils flare as an electric fire shoots out. You can see his draconic brow furrows as it seems that his very horns arch back like finely plucked eyebrows as he growls at his brother. Every time I think I'm on top of the world, you gotta try to knock me down. Isn't that right, Chatarax? We see him leap up and scatter the horde off to the side, and he begins peacocking. His great cerulean wings flare back, and his shoulders keep popping forward like a dragon version of Khal Drogo as he paces around their red lair. And he says, I am the lapis lazuli lizard wizard. God damn it, this horde is paltry. And if you really think that you're badass enough to call yourself my brother, well then, sucker, I propose we go after a bigger score.
Chatarax.
Yes, wonderful. And pray tell, what exactly do you consider a bigger score? Where would we find such a thing? I mean, we are out in the deserts after all. It's not like there's going to be a king or a prince or some nomadic wandering through our deserts anytime soon with mounds of gold here and there. So what exactly are you asking me, Locrius?
We see Locrius cock his head at his brother, and his eyes narrow, and he smiles that signature nefarious smile. And he says, well, now that you mention it, I propose we go after the fattest, most flatulent blue dragon ever to scour the waste with his scum-suckiness. I'm talking about Azure the Opulent himself.
And at that, Chatarax also has his scales furrow down.
You do realize you're talking about Azure the Opulent. There are tales told by our own mother about him. Do you really think that for the life of us, the two of us, could waltz into his and take his hoard?
No one will see us. I am the reptilian chameleon.
Brother, I have missed you so. It's been a long time since we've worked together.
Well, and he you can hear the audible pop of shoulder blades and a flapping of wings, and coins scatter about.
How about we propose a bet? I like to think that you still have a sporting chance, but how about this? We do as you ask, and survive. Whoever arrives back with the largest portion of Azure's hoard will finally get to say he is the better brother.
And you both know that Azure the Opulent, who has permitted you to lair on the outskirts of the southern badlands, has been gone these last few weeks on errands of his own to the north, making that hoard all the more tempting, for it is only 100 miles into the desert from your very lair, unattended by the dragon. I would like you each to stretch out your senses and tell me, what do you perceive? Give me a perception roll. As both dragons stretch out with their ears, and we hear the clinking of coins sliding against one another, the subtle dripping of what little moisture is in the cave. And you begin already within your minds contemplating how you can pull off this ballsiest of heists for even two blue dragons, such as yourself. You begin to stretch out with your senses, imagining yourself flying across the desert toward Azure's lair, and your mind begins to think, what would happen if he caught us there? And that's when you sense it. Very subtly. For as the same way that you blue dragons were flying so elegantly through the air, you also love to burrow through the ground, shifting through sand and rock as though it were water. And you know the sound and the feel of burrowing. You know the sound of rock grinding against rock, of sand shifting back into place, of sand and rock slipping over scale and wing and talon and tooth. You are familiar with this sound, and you hear it and feel it first in the gentle vibrations coming up through the ground, through the floor of your cave, in a slight metallic ringing that no human ear but your dragon ears can hear as coins begin to vibrate like tuning forks against one another, and then you feel it rise up through your talons, through your claws, up your haunches, into your wings, and even into your teeth. You hear the sound, you feel the sound of a large dragon in the distance, burrowing. And he's coming closer. It appears as though Azure the Opulent is returning to his lair. How does this affect your plans?
I imagine that at this point, Locrius literally has his ear to the ground, and perhaps he looks over at his brother, and his brother would see the red circles around the pupils of his eyes that spin with an electric energy, like a serpent eating its tail, as the gears are working, and his draconic cunning starts to formulate a plan. And he says, well, brother, I'll take that bet, but we're gonna have to act now. If your skills at mimicry are really as good as you say they are, I propose this. The great blue googly mooglies underlings, they're not going to be able to tell one blue dragon from another blue dragon, at least at a distance. So my proposition to you, if you think you got the blue balls to make it happen, is to soar high above the layer of the Azure Lord of the desert and to call down to his minions in his very voice. It will be a grand ruse, all the while I will be subterranean digging, tunneling, burrowing, spelunking, if you will, up underneath this great vault of treasure. It will be ours, brother. It will be ours.
Shadrax takes a moment. He stalks around their horde, thinking, pacing for a moment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Point. I see your...
And he sort of starts to what he remembers of the tales of Azure the Opulent. Large chest. And he sort of puffs his chest out.
Deeper echoes, all the sorts of things that scare the little children to death. Mm-hmm. Yes,
And he snaps out of it.
I think I could achieve that, brother. Take your bet. But based on that rumbling, I suggest we get to moving. If he finds out our horde is anywhere near his, he may eventually get suspicious and return.
You know, with the ability, the accuracy with which you stretched out your senses and and even still now can feel the tunneling and burrowing of this large dragon, that you have perhaps less than an hour to act if you're going to carry out this plan before he returns.
Locrius turns to his brother. I imagine he spits on his draconic hand, on his claw, and as he does so, I imagine that I imagine the loogie that he hawks on that like shoots. It's alive with electric energy as he puts out his hand to shake on it to seal the bet.
And there's a large, like, electric orb just sitting in Shatterax's hand, and
To each their own, and may we both be victors over the opulent.
and he reaches out and just grasps your hand. And I imagine that there's this sort of sibling rivalry handshake that's like, who can grasp each other's hand harder. So he just sort of crunches down on your hand, or as we both agree to this task.
Let's go ahead and do a strength contest to see which one of you loses out on that little sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry. That's
You know what? I'm gonna give this one to Chad because I'm really not very strong in real life. Just being honest.
All right. All right. So Locrius relents.
Okay.
I imagine that there's this moment, like, you know, with brothers. Maybe Shatterax really was hatched first, and there's a moment when Locrius flinches. And it's clear that Shatterax was victorious, but I also imagine that the roiling liquid dragon's breath in between our hands eventually is going to explode in like a thunderous, with thunderous potential energy. And as it does so, I imagine again coins go scattering, our grip breaks, and Locrius just takes a dive towards the door, and like a flash of lightning and a flash of blue wings, he's just launches himself out of the lair.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
So as you emerge, flying back through these tunnels that we just flew through so recently, and you burst first Locrius, then Shatterax, out through the chimney of this dragon's tower of stone. You turn westward toward the heart of the desert. A quick flight of 100 miles for you. In fact, you know it to be precisely 101 miles to the threshold of Azure's lair. And as you begin flying, you quickly see in the distance the largest gathering of these rock formations, this gargantuan sandstone mountain in the middle of the desert. And you know that midway up is the entrance to Azure's lair, the primary entrance that he uses. Down around the foot of this desert mountain are the tribal villages of the slaves and servants of Azure. He has made the nomadic people of this desert his servants. You know them, each and every one of them, to be marked with a golden choker inset with enough sapphires that if you had but a handful of these chokers, the value would offset your entire hoard thus far. You know that these chokers magically mark each and every one of these slaves as the property of Azure and bind them to him. And that by Azure's command, you are forbidden to touch them, to taste of them. You know that Azure keeps a Major Domo, his right hand human, a man known simply as Horus. And as you get within about 20 miles of this lair, you're approaching the area where you would begin to be able to be seen probably within the next few minutes by humans. So at this point, I will let you execute whatever plan you have.
Okay, so just to get it straight, down at the base, it seems like there's like a huge camp of his thrall, who are all marked with these gold and sapphire chokers, and there's this great spire going up, and the dragon's entrance is way to the top. What is around on the opposite side of this structure?
So you're approaching from the east. To the west, these mountains, this mountainous structure actually begins to flow into a virtually impassable range of mountains that within a couple hundred miles end in a harsh sea. There are no known humanoid settlements. There's known to be monsters, as you have ventured into this area before looking for that rare delicacy of whatever you could find amongst the crags.
So I imagine as we're flying, dragons fly super fast, and we're probably, I imagine there's almost probably a little bit of a dogfight where one's swooping in front of the other. And at one point when we're neck and neck, Locrius will turn to his brother and he'll say, I'm gonna go find a back door. I leave you to your mimicry. And he starts to cut off, sort of like to fly away. And he says, oh, if you require my aid, oh brother, simply launch a bolt of lightning towards the mouth of the cave, and I no doubt will get the message. But you won't be requiring my help. You're that good, ain't you?
Well, we shall see who is the first to get blue balls after this, huh?
Well, and he cracks his shoulders, and you see him sort of do a barrel roll dive towards the mountains as he begins to get in place to present himself as Azure the Opulent.
Chad, go ahead and tell me how it is. What is your performance as Azure? What is this performance that you're going to do to try to fool the servants and slaves of Azure while Locrius is flying looking for a back door?
What I'm going to attempt to do, I am going to try pretend and mimic the voice of Azure from afar to hopefully be able to command to bring forth. I would like for them to try to bring forth Horus. Ideally, I want to bring the biggest, the baddest, the closest to his ranking to me. So the goal is bring out Horus so that we can distract him for just enough so that my brother can get in underneath and steal as much as possible. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to mount myself on the top of these mountains and see me, and then I'm just going to project my voice out. And mechanically, if I can, I'd like to do Charm Person with my magic item.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, Chatterrax fly up onto this mountaintop, and he looks over the groupings of people, the chaliced, the chained of Azure the Opulent. And he cleans out his throat and begins to give a speech.
You there, do you not recognize your leader? Come to me as close as you can. But only when I tell you to stop, you will stop. Do you understand me? When you reach that point, I will give you an instruction. From that moment, or else I will make it so that you become a ball of lightning.
And your voice reverberates off of the rocks from high above, reverberates around the micro canyons and draws where the humans have their settlements down below. And you see not one or two, but about 40 of these marked humans, all coming out of their houses, coming away from what their chores are, as they all kind of move into a congregation. They all stare up at you, and every last one of them takes a knee and puts their hand over their face and raises their other hand up to you in a gesture of supplication, awaiting your command. And with that, we're going to cut to Locrius. As you are flying around the backside, you have reached the backside of this mountain, and just as you do, you can hear the booming mimicry of Chatterrax off in the distance, catching little glimpses, audio glimpses of the echoing. What are you doing?
Absolutely. So we see flying super low, almost his belly almost touching the sand itself, almost as if he's a minnow swimming through waves until he gets to the edge of the mountain itself, and all of a sudden, whoosh, up inside a crag, I imagine that he is half blue dragon, half shadow, as he just shoots directly up. Once he is maybe about halfway up, we see his wings unfurl a little bit as he flies back again in the shadow of this huge natural spire, searching with his keen draconic vision for any loose sandy areas, any places where it looks like there's been a small rock slide, or any chink in the armor, as it were, of this huge place.
In fact, about a third of the way up the backside of this spire, you see on the backside that it kind of comes down almost in steps every few hundred feet. And about a third of the way up, almost like a sort of rocky soup bowl, is an area where loose gravel and sand has collected. And it's probably about twice as big of an area as you are.
Absolutely. And knowing that time is of the essence, we see Locrius fly up and sort of pause in the air for a quick moment, do a spin and a spin again, and head first, he launches himself at that area of rough gravel. And as he's about to hit it, we see his breath shoots forward, but not in the typical lightning bolt of a dragon in the midst of battle. It's more of a soft breath, and we see these motes of electricity sort of in slow motion as he shoots forward, begin to part the earth in front of him as I use my burrow speed to dig into the side and then up towards the treasure.
Excellent, excellent. And then we will cut back to Chatarax with Azure's minions in supplication to you. What is your command?
Peons. Azure asks for Horus. You there?
One of the probably men or women in the front, whoever, whichever person is there in the front, he points with his claw, which is, for the sake of this, a very ornate golden talon, which would be the representation of the Staff of Charming. And he points ahead with it and looks at the one individual.
Forth. Horus, to me. And I would like to see him now. If my demands are not met, you know what fate befalls you.
You see about a half a dozen men and women in the front ranks begin to, a small fist fight actually breaks out as they fight over who it is that is going to, I don't know if you can see that one that I rolled for the save against that. These half dozen are fighting over who it is that it gets the privilege of summoning Horus before you. And you see them begin rushing forward as one of them begins to emerge forward. And what were you going to say?
Oh, I imagine that, okay, this is something that I thought about before the game. But I imagine that Locrius and I share that like twin ship telepathy thing. And if I'm enjoying something, if something is so, I feel like I have to share it, or if I'm in pain or whatever, and I can't help but underneath, I'm trying to maintain the composure, but I can't help, because I'm so young, I can't help but put that like snickering grin on my face. And so I'm like,
brother, if you were only here to see this and you didn't have your head shoved so far up the sand, you would be dying with laughter right now. I swear to God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
yes, you, Horus. You there.
Bring me Horus. I would like to see him.
And one of the figures emerges victorious from the scrum and begins climbing a long set of carved stairs up towards the front entrance to the Dragon's Lair. And we are going to cut over to Locrius, now burrowing down and then up again. Locrius, as you are digging, burrowing through, using your controlled electrical breath, and you feel this sense of elation coming from your brother through this empathic link that you share, this telepathic link, you begin to notice a change in the rock. The rock and sand, that there's veins of something metallic running through it as you're burrowing upward. Very thin veins that seem to almost follow a pattern of electrical energy arcing through cracks in stone, but it's made of metal. At first, a couple of these kind of break off as you go past them, but as you tunnel up further, your tunneling becomes slower as you realize that these threads are becoming thicker and thicker, and you are coming up against mithril and adamantine woven into the stone. It appears as though... Why don't you give me a arcana or a I don't know, some kind of intelligence check.
I got a 19 on the die, and I don't think that dragons get any skills in those, but that's
you might have some
plus
skills listed below your stat block.
I do. It looks like it's just perception and stealth. But I mean, realistically, I should not have a +9 to perception. I'm oblivious to everything.
So you have heard of this. Maybe even you have thought that this might be possible on a very small scale, but you have never would have thought to see something like this on such a grand scale. But as near as you can tell, Azure the Opulent, being a blue dragon, being as territorial as you blue dragons are wont to be, and being also a burrower, appears to have used his own electrical breath weapon to fuse mithril and adamantine into the very cracks of the stone, creating an impenetrable floor to his lair. Your burrowing efforts seem to have been thwarted. As we cut, actually, describe that what you feel and what kind of empathic, telepathic broadcast that Chatterax would be receiving on his end as you encounter this barricade.
Well, I think that the first thing that Chatterax would feel was that telltale sense of defeat, and I'm sure that for a moment he must feel like he's that brotherly gloat that happens, that ha I'm better than you are. And Locrius, I imagine for a sec, he's scratching at these tendrils of adamantium and mithril. Clearly, this was a very intelligent way to keep other blue dragons from getting into his horde. And he begins to turn around to go back the other way, but I'd like to think if he listens for a second, because the perception of a dragon, the draconic version of Locrius anyways, perception is quite good. His ears are keen, and he is able to sense tremors around him or something. Is it tremor sense? Blind sight. So would I notice any any small burrowing animals around? Would I hear anything like that?
You would, but they're further down than you would expect, because as you grew closer to the lair, you were tunneling through rock. And other than yourself and some other much larger burrowing monsters, there's not a lot that burrows through rock itself. A little further down, you sense maybe some desert snakes and very small critters.
Yep. So what Locrius would do is he would burrow down so that he sort of take a C shape through the rock so that he can hear those skittering creatures above him. And as he does so, I imagine that that around his neck he has what looks like a mithril chain, and he grabs it for a moment and invokes the magic in it, which is basically a reskinned Mace of Terror. So I'm going to use the magical ability in that, just this tangible, palpable feeling of fear shoots out in 30 feet from where I am. So I'm going to try to scare all of the creatures above me and listen to where they go to see if I can hear for a secret entrance into the lair.
Well, damn. Locrius the dragon is going to earn the first point of inspiration for that. That's some badass shit right there. Yeah, and you, as I imagine, as these almost like because you're underground, I imagine this going almost like a sonic through the stone, and kind of like the antithesis of Aquaman summoning animals through the ocean. You're invoking terror into every small creature and critter that is in this area, and many of them scatter outward, but you sense some larger scurrying that you can actually detect that there are desert rats, larger rats. They're not giant rats, but they're larger rats. And you can sense them burrowing, tunneling closer, and moving around on the far side from where you are, around this mithril and adamantine, where there seems to be some kind of an opening that's allowing them to move. You sense them move, and then they're gone. You don't sense them, and then the numbers grow smaller. So you're able to sense what direction that is and where they went.
And I think that Shatterax would feel that telepathic bond. He would feel a profound sense of smugness as Locrius burrows off after those burrowing creatures.
I imagine that Shatterax is all of this go down from up above, watching the fist fights and watching as the takes off to go find Horus, and he gets that sense of,
Damned. You actually solved it, you little piece of garbage. Son of a bitch. Mother was right, you're not stupid.
And as you get this, you're feeling this and thinking this. The servant has reached the top of the stairs, has run inside, and you see as somebody who is also wearing one of these golden and sapphire chokers, but is dressed very, very much like somebody who is in charge. He's not dressed in the tatters and rags of these tribal people that live down below. He is dressed almost like a pharaoh would be dressed, but kind of like a slum pharaoh, because he can't be allowed to outshine the opulence of Azure, but he's granted a few amenities serving as his major domo. As he comes out, and the servant is kind of pointing around and points up. You see him just kind of going, and you see Horus kind of come down a few steps, and he's looking up, and you see him make eye contact with you, and he hesitates for a moment, and you see him kind of cock his eyes, and He turns and says something to the servant. Give me a perception check and see if you could, if you can hear him. All right, as Horus turns and speaks to this servant, you hear him trying. It's like he's trying to be quiet because he knows that Azure can probably hear him, as he kind of turns to him and says, "Who is that? Are you certain that is Azure?" How do you respond?
And there's a moment where Chatterex shakes his head in disappointment, but also in disappointment because he's thinking to himself,
Damn it, I wish I had that chain right now.
to say to Locrius, I really wish I had your chain of terror right now. Thank you. But he looks to Horus.
Horus, you dare defy your ruler? You question my legitimacy in front of our people? I can always name a new major domo.
What's the DC on your charm?
It is a. Let me take a look. One second. It is DC 15, I believe.
Excellent.
Yep. Coming from the wand, it's a DC 15.
Okay. Horus looks up at you and he bows. He takes a knee and he bows his head, but he does not place his hand over his face, nor does he raise his hand in supplication to you. And I beg your forgiveness, my lord. But I know my master. And you are not him.
And seeing that his ruse is fading on the few and far between, he begins to think, brother, and just silently talks back and forth to Locrius. Brother, I need your help here. If you were standing in front of, say, I don't know, 42 different individuals, one being the major domo who just called you out in front of the rest of these illegitimate little sand children, what the hell would you do?
And I imagine that the words ring in Locrius's head as he's sort of trying to squeeze through these small little areas in the mithril that perhaps a full-size dragon wouldn't be able to squeeze through, but he's just trying to make his way through there. And he says, I thought you had everything under control, brother. Do you need me to attempt to slip out of this chute that I'm in to save your blue ass again?
We don't have time for that now, brother. You're very close to the treasure at hand. I will just have the way around our little predicament, and these little pompous proboscis bastards will have to deal with me. Now hold on one moment.
He clears his throat and he looks to, and he
Horus. Now, we've known that it is not nice of you or any to question me. Should I fly over there and show you with my hands firsthand to be Azure the Opulent?
to put more depth and bass into his voice as he says this, to try and somehow repair the ruse.
This time, as you put this extra emphasis on it, it's as if Horus, he kind of cocks his head one more to the time to the side, and then you actually see him kind of go, and he immediately takes the full supplication posture. Forgive me, my lord. It's so unusual for you to come in near the top. You usually use your burrowing entrance.
I know, I'm usually a bottom, I understand, but today I decided top. Now,
He holds a claw out in front of everyone, and I imagine that it takes the sun and creates an eclipse for a moment with his hand.
all of you standing before me, I wish to see my horde. But I would like to wallow in it alone. Give me some free time to be with my own jewels and opulence. I want to bask in all of my glory.
Absolutely, my lord. And he immediately, because Horus knows there's no hesitation when Azure commands him, he begins ushering the one who came up and got him and the others that were previously fighting over who got to come get him, who had begun to climb the stairs. He begins ushering all of them out and away, even from the very village, and you see more people coming out of the houses as they gather some of their camels and quickly begin to head out. Some of them seem to even almost have like ready bags, like they're used to needing to get out into the desert away from the immediacy of Azure. And in just a matter of less than 10 minutes, they are receding in a cloud of dust into the desert.
That's awesome. Okay. And for a moment, the young blue sort of like drops his hands at the just looks at the surroundings. Like, I can't believe I just did that. I'm actually quite proud of myself.
Locrius, do you see this mess right now? Oh, wait, no, you can't because you're underneath the ground. But if you could, I swear to you, brother, this is the most amazing thing in the whole wide world. They're running away like little scared children. There's a cloud of dust, and so tempted right now just to blow them all to oblivion, but I won't because we've got a mission. Okay, Daddy is going hunting.
And that now that they're clearing out, he sort of spreads his wings. The wingspan begins to make that arc of a over it. And if you can tell me how the fortress, how the tower is all sort of splayed out, but I imagine that he's going to try to fly up and then just dive. So if Locrius is coming from the bottom, I'm going to come from the top and just sort of try to dive in to this horde. Wherever this horde is, I want to find it and seek it out like a dog. Just find that and have it be mine.
And you know that the front entrance where Horus came out of a dwelling near it, living true to his name of Azure the Opulent, is a grand, highly decorated, obviously imported marble entryway, big enough for a full-size dragon to enter in, and that there is some long corridors that lead ultimately, even from here, as you grow closer to the door, you can smell the treasure. You smell the gold. You sense the gold. And Locrius, you have followed these ratways through these narrow passages, squirming your way through where only a dragon as small as yourself could. And you, too, can now smell the scent of the treasure as you begin to emerge into a chamber through a crack in stone. You can even see before you the rats scurrying into, bouncing around the treasure as you emerge into this room. And I imagine that both Chatarax and Locrius enter into the treasure chamber from different directions simultaneously.
And I imagine that as Locrius slinks his way through the this craggy entrance to it, I imagine that almost like Vermin himself in the lair of a true older dragon, this young blue dragon slinks in, his claws soft on the floor like a cat's, his tail up high behind him for balance as he smells. You can see his forked tongue lick the air to taste the riches, with motes of lightning shooting off of it as he scans the room and tries to take in the majesty, the forbidden fruit. And he turns to his brother and he says, "Well, I'm glad you had fun playing with your dolls down there. Now let's figure out how to get this horde out of here."
I imagine that you see Chatarax on the opposite end. He's not prowling with both, like with his claws and his feet. He's kind of getting a little bit of an ego and a little bit pompous, and he like rises up on his hind legs and just sort of strides into the room like, "Hello, how are you? Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely wonderful. Oh, hello there, Locrius. How are you? It's about time you showed up. I was going to go ahead and clear all this out myself. I'm going to need a pack mule, though, so I suppose you'll do. And then he just breaks out into a laugh, and then he just celebrates with you for a moment, like, once we put our heads together, we can start to do anything we like. Why, we could take over the entire sands if we want.
Yes. Yes, they're ours. Yes.
And you can see, now that you're both in here, and as Chaterax comes in through the entryway and the light that was spilling in there, briefly obscured by his shadow, exposes the vastness of Azure, the Opulent's treasure. You see at first the horde that has just engulfed your eyes, where you both came in from opposite sides, easily 100-fold the size of your own meager horde back in your sandstone lair. And then as you begin to kind of cast your eyes around, you realize that this is just the smallest of the multitude of mounds of treasure that are in this chamber. As almost imagine like a rack focus as you're looking at this stuff in focus in front of you, and your gaze lifts up, and then the treasure hoard in front of you goes out of focus, and you see just mounds of treasure into this cavern that easily goes back into the mountains, bigger than anything you could ever imagine. And you know now why Azure is called Azure the Opulent. And I would like you both to roll me a perception check with disadvantage, because you are so entranced by this treasure. There are coins, more coins from more lands than you've ever seen. There are entire arcs of gold and silver, mithril, adamantine, almost as if entire buildings or spires. In fact, there is the very top portion of a spire from a faraway land made of jade inlaid with gold and silver, sticking out of part of one of the treasure mounds. You see giant-sized, and by giant size I mean the size of the colossal storm giant statues made of marble inlaid with gold and mithril. And it's almost as if the treasure is singing to you. You hear the music of the gold and the jewels, of countless magical items. You can even sense the hushed whispering of hundreds of sentient magical items lost seemingly to time in this treasure hoard. And just below that, as if a bass accompaniment to this orchestra of treasure, you hear a and then you realize that doesn't belong with this orchestral sound. You realize that what you are hearing is the sound of rock, grinding against scale, as Azure the Opulent is returning to his lair. In your distraction of finding out where the rats were sneaking in, caught in this web of mithril and adamantine on the floor of this treasure hoard, you never sensed the chamber, or rather not the chamber, the tunnel that was a further ways behind, that came up and behind the treasure hoard. And it is through this on the far side that rock begins to shift, and suddenly you hear coins and jewels and gems clattering, And in the distance of this treasure hoard, you see the massive form of Azure the Opulent emerge from the rock and shadow himself and tumble into the treasure with a great you hear treasures moving aside, tons of treasures moving aside, skittering and clattering as Azure seems to be stumbling through this hoard. This great spire of marble shatters as a massive talon crashes into it. And as he's moving through this, kind of wading through this treasure towards a corner away from both of you, you see him kind of holding himself in a strange way, that rather than having his wings unfurled against his back, his wings seem to be wrapped around him almost like some kind of a leathery and scale covered cloak. And he seems to be not quite sure of where he's going as he stumbles into part of the cavern wall, and he moves towards this far corner. And you see now what he is heading towards is a section in the corner of this area where it's all marble wall inlaid with every gem, jewel, and precious metal that has been formed into a kind of contoured throne almost for himself. And as he stumbles in, without even looking in your direction, he just spits out, "Horus! Horus! Send me those blue bastard brothers." And he slumps and crashes into the corner, cracking the marble of his throne. And for a moment, as you are locked, frozen, unable to move for fear of tipping him off, he seems to almost slump. He casts around and he keeps his head kind of turned to the side. Oh, there you are. Yes, Horus, thank you for summoning them. You, Locrius, Shadorax. Horus, probably didn't tell you why I summoned you. I'm glad you got here so quickly.
And Shadorax has caught up his throat. For once in his entire life, the mimicry he was going to mimic Horus because he thought he wasn't going to. We do not know why we are meant to be here. But please, Horus was, how shall I say it? I think you could have gone for a bit. I'm just saying, go on, please.
He doesn't want to hear your blathering, brother. This is Azure the Opulent. Look as we bask in his glory. Look around us.
Thinking I'm sorry. I get nervous when I meet
Enough!
People.
Enough! I can only take so much of your incessant blathering and supplication. Normally, I would relish your groveling at my talons. But I don't have time for that now. I need you. I need your cunning. I need your wiles. And yes, though it pains me to admit it, I need your cunning youthfulness. What have you heard of the monster hunters, known as the Belgrade Brothers. Do you know anything about them? Search your memories.
Good question.
And that would be a history check.
History check. Okay.
No lie. I just got a 20, a natural 20. I don't think I have anything. I got these dragon dice that I've never used before, and they've been on fire tonight. That's a 20.
Is there a 20 on every side?
Oh yeah. No, there's not. I promise.
Okay. So I got a 16, and he got a 20. That's cool. That's awesome.
So you have heard. You have to search your memories. Locrius, as soon as you hear the Belgrade Brothers, you know immediately who he's talking about. Chatterax, you have to kind of think for a minute. You know that you've heard of them, but you're not quite sure at first. And then you kind of remember bits and pieces of it. But Locrius, you know that the Belgrade Brothers, their reputation kind of precedes them. They are cunning adventurers, cunning warriors that at first the rumors began to spread that they were hunting dragons. And they have slain a couple of dragons. Sure, one of them was a wormling. But they've slain a couple of dragons. They have slain many monsters, big and small. Rumor says they have even taken down a frost giant. And what is even more alarming is that these brothers, known as the Belgrade Brothers, are gnomish monster hunters.
And I think that as he mentions them, I think that Locrius, I think Chatterax would see a mischievous smile on Locrius's face, realizing that even though we are in the presence of a dragon far mightier than us, in this negotiation, we have a bit of the upper hand. And his nostrils flare as he hears the word, and he says, the Belgrade Brothers. Oh, yes, I know of the Belgrade Brothers. Of course I do. Everybody knows of them. Is that what sent you scampering back here? You want us to go after the Belgrade Brothers? The twin adventurers that defeated Melrivor the Great? Again, he starts peacocking. His wings go back, and he feels emboldened, hearing his own voice echoing through this hall. He says, the Belgrade Brothers, who destroyed Zelkor the Uncompromising, just the two of them, a pair of humanoids, nay, not just humanoids, a pair of gnomes? You want us to take out the Belgrade Brothers? Now, this is well within our abilities, but for such a difficult task, I shouldn't say difficult, but for such a task that, well, quite frankly, has not been completed by yourself as of yet, we're going to require some things in return. The southeast portion of the... Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. What?
I need you to make a dex save.
Okay, here we go.
You were in the middle of that soliloquy, and I'm like, he gonna do something to him. He's really gonna do something to him right now. I know this.
This is the best D20 that I own, evidently. That's a 15 on the die. So my dex is a +4. That's a 19.
Let's see. Okay. You barely duck out of the way as Azure's tail, his spiny tail, swings out of the shadow at you. You insolent bastard! You cocky. There are no words to describe you. You seem to think that a simple price... Okay. I put my book in the wrong place and half my stuff just fell.
His hoard overflowed, and there was much rejoicing.
He turns to the side and knocks over a big chunk of his hoard, stumbling into it. You think merely putting a price on their head will make them easier to capture? You think that I simply have failed to take them out? You know nothing of what they're capable of. And as he turns, you see the left side of his face for the first time. The entire left side of his face is in tatters. His left eye is gone. He's been staring at you with one angry red eye, and that's all you see now as he looks straight on at you. One angry red eye and one mass of torn flesh. And he stands on his hind legs, rising to his full height, towering easily 3 times your size. And he goes like to spread his wings that have been wrapped around him like a cloak as he says, "They did this to me!" And his wings fall to the ground, severed from his back. He's been clutching them to himself like a cloak, because that was the only way to keep hold of them. As you see, as he turns, you see the blood and gore caked with sand and rock from his burrowing, draining down his back. They did this to me.
And yes.
Time, go ahead.
Sorry, for the first time in his young dragon life, I believe that Shadorax is he's usually a chameleon. He's usually a mimic. He can deal with vision, but he has never seen dragon carnage like that. It immediately takes him out of this sort of boisterous, proud, like, we're young dragons and we're going to be awesome. And we're also going to take your old ass and put you in the garbage, man. And he immediately goes from that stance to the color, the blue color from his face goes from this azure blue to almost a periwinkle pale of brother, I advise that we look at this from wiser eyes. I are undoubtedly younger, more athletic, more talented. Probably we have more, cunning, such and such, yada yada. But Azure, I don't know what to say. Apologies for underestimating our enemy. In that, I will make it my personal duty to bring back one of those brothers and let you rip their wings off. Arms, head, whatever limb you choose, it will be your doing.
Locrius, you would do well to learn how to use a honey tongue like your brother. Azure the Opulent can be appealed to with flattery. But I tell you, if you can do this, bring them to me or bring them to me in pieces. 1/10 of this horde would be yours.
Now, see,
Go
if
ahead.
you led with that, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. As we see Locrius, he gets bold again, and then he realizes that he is completely dwarfed, and he shrinks down like a fluffy wet dog in a rainstorm.
As I said, Locrius, 1/5 of this horde will be yours. As you know, and he begins to settle down and sitting back, kind of settling into his now cracked throne. You see him kind of struggling because of his one eye, but he reaches down and gathers up the tatters of his wings and pulls them back around him, and almost like somebody huddling under a blanket. And he says, as you know, I was heading to the north, but you know nothing of why. You know of Arialis the White, no doubt. The great white dragon of the northern frozen lands. A rumor was told that she was growing dull in scale and long in fang. And I simply wanted to scout out her lair to supplement my own opulent horde. And while I was there, north of a village laid into the very saddle of the mountains known as Cedric's Hollow, I saw that Orialis the White had vacated her lair some time before. And so I planted myself in the mountains, and I listened. I listened to the wind, and I listened to the rumors on the wind. I eavesdropped on giants and humans alike. And that's when I began to hear of these Belgrade brothers, that these hunters were in the area. And I stretched out my senses for them. I have tasted many a gnome. I know their scent well, but I detected nothing until it was too late and they were upon me. One of them is God's touched. The other one is nothing more than a butcher. They smell of something foreign, something far off and distant. They smell of nothing in these worlds. There is a darkness that kind of surrounds them, an energy, some sort of bleakness that just seems to permeate them. I've never sensed this before. I don't know what it is. And it threw me off my guard, or they never would have taken advantage of me. They were a flurry of blows, moving in and out. The God's touch one calling on various deities or whatever foul god he believes in, striking at me with his magics. Most of it reflecting off of my scales. I charred their flesh, have no doubt about that. But the God's touched one lunged at me and did this, and he indicates the ragged flesh where his eye was. And while he was taking my eye, I was distracted as the other one, the butcher, somehow scrambled up my back. He has a weapon on him. I don't know how they come by such a weapon. I have never felt such a burning heat and hatred from a single weapon before, as it seared into my flesh and severed my wings from my back, from my shoulders. Know this, if you ever see that weapon again. It is hereby named by Azure, Backbiter. Know it, and fear it, and be aware of it. I will pay you twice if you bring me the broken shards of Backbiter. These butchers, this priest and this poacher, I think they are merely trophy hunters, and that disgusts me even more. They have no respect for their quarry. I think that they were there for Aurealis the White, and saw instead a gleaming sapphire of a treasure in your own Azure. I will send them 2 sapphires, sharp cut jewels of the desert. Crush them between your scales, rip them with your talons, rend their flesh with your teeth, and bring me back whatever is left, and you shall have your reward.
It will be done. Oh, it will be done.
Then away with you! Why are you still here? Cedric's Howl! No! And his voice echoes, and stones begin to shake and clatter as his voice virtually propels you out of the room.
I imagine Locrius barely dodges out of the way as one of these huge statues of Titans falls down where he just was as he scampers out of the room.
Yeah, like as soon as you say that, like a bolt of lightning, we were just shooting out of the tunnels and down the halls, and as soon as we can get out, we're out, because he's given us a mission and not killing us, so that's a good day. Like, there you are.
All right, and as you jet out of Azure the Opulent's lair, 2 lightning blue streaks arcing toward the north, we are going to take a brief break so I can get some more water and cough drops. I had a couple coughing fits in there and almost lost it.
Yeah, man, no, that's awesome though. Like, so far, dude, this is nuts.
You're destroying it, Jake. You're destroying it. It's so good, man. I'm having such a blast.
Oh, you guys are bringing it big time too. I want to thank everybody who has been watching. We've had various people in the chat. I know Rob has been in there, and Mapronomicon is in there. I think Carol may still be with us. I know she's drawing. Marquise was in there briefly. Nelson was in there at the top of before the adventure started. I think Tim or James or somebody was in there. But I think Tim mentioned he wasn't going to be able to watch live, but planned to watch it. So thank you, everybody who's watching. This is, of course, the What Lies Betwixt, the Affairs of Dragons. As Rob from Performance Check recognized at the very beginning, that was, in fact, Planetoid Soul Power, from which the name of this game comes. And this is, in fact, a prequel to my The Affairs of Dragon game that I ran for Brigade Con that is available on the video section here on Mini Terrain Domain. I would like to take a moment to just thank Chad and Locrius for just bringing it tonight. You guys are... I could just sit back and let you two go at it, and we could just have a couple hours of just the Dragon Brothers. You guys are pretty much carrying this game, and you make being a DM super easy. And I want to thank my Cold for pitching my voice down an octave or two to give me the most epic dragon voice. So I am going to go get some more water and another cough drop. And we will be back in just a few moments as Locrius the Nefarious and Chaterax the Mimic arc toward Cedric's Hollow in the north. Hey, internets. It's Jake, and you're listening to Mini Terrain Domain presents What Lies Betwixt, The Affairs of Dragons, starring Chad Nick as Chaterax, the Mimic, and Locrius as Locrius, the Nefarious, and of course your Dungeon Master, me, MTD, as Azure the Opulent. At the top of the hour, we heard Planetoid with Soul Power. In just a few moments, we'll return with the exciting adventures of Chaterax and Locrius. Chaterax and Locrius go north. I may have missed my calling as a DJ. All right. Well, hopefully everybody's enjoying this game. I have a feeling that with this cold, I may be thrashing my voice to within inches of its life. But it is all worth it. This is usually how I sound in the morning with this cold that I've had. Hopefully I've been hitting mute. I think I missed the mute button a couple times when I've coughed. And for some reason, I'm not looking at the camera. My voice needs that epicness, Carol. My voice needs that epicness for tomorrow's Stone Rift game. That's right. Last Friday, Absolute Tabletop released one of the finest third-party RPG supplements I have ever seen. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not exaggerating when I say that in just over the year that they have been putting out content that they have grown so much. They listen to us, their audience, and they have taken the feedback and put it all into practice. And this is both from a design point of view, but also from a just content. I mean, there are over 60 adventure hooks. There are roll charts. There's an adventure included.
There's a dwarf crusher giant.
Yeah, there's just so much freaking
Dwarf
awesome.
crusher.
And
I read that. I was like, oh,
right.
yeah.
And I am going to be running the Into the Rift adventure straight out of the back of that book. 65 pages of book. I'm not sure what the price is right now. I know they had it on a deal over the weekend, but that is passed. But I mean, I know for a mere less than $20, you can get the pre-order for the print book, get the PDF. I think they have the Stone Rift poster available. It's just an awesome supplement. There's so much stuff in there. I seriously, if that was the only book I had, if you told me you can only use Stone Rift, I could run an adventure a week all year next year. I would probably die by the hands of my wife for running an adventure a week. And my voice wouldn't last much, but yeah, tune in tomorrow night right here on Mini Terrain Domain at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where I will have 4 amazing players: Chris from Drop Dice, Marquise the Stereotypical Strider, Carol, and Tyler DM Ty from On a Roll, I think is his site. I keep forgetting the name of his site, but I think it's On a Roll. It's going to be
That's awesome,
fantastic.
man. That's going to be a great crew.
All right, one quick thing.
Yeah, so we are getting snow right now. It's like very minimal, but like if my internet cuts out for some reason, just know that like that might be it. Probably not going to happen. We're probably going to be fine. It's literally just a dusting right now, but we'll see.
Okay. You guys ready?
Jake, is this the first game that we've actually played in together?
This is actually, I'm trying to think if you and we may have had a few moments where we were in a hangout at the same time once before, but I think other than that, this is actually the first game you and I've ever played in.
I think it is, yeah.
At the same time, yeah.
It's awesome, man. I'm like super immersed, man. From that intro, like starting from the intro through the whole thing has been just great, man.
Man, I did not mean to derail you either, Chad. I sensed that you were kind of reeling at the beginning there a little bit. But no, you guys are killing it. You guys are absolutely 100% killing it with this. I'm having a blast. I do want to say real quick on that note, Locrius, I'm not going to give too many details because I don't know how much information he's put out yet. But you and I are in a game. Start early next year. We're going to be in a campaign together.
Oh
Correct?
yeah. I think you can talk about it. I think it's okay. I
Okay,
think you can
yeah.
talk about it. Yeah, because Lloyd, you talk about Lloyd's game, right? He's talked about
Lloyd.
that. Yeah, man.
Lloyd. Okay, Lloyd, the RLDM, is going to be running a Iscloft Viking campaign, and I was invited to that. I was most honored. Locrius and Nick Dawson, and who else? There's
Yep.
one of the. It's you,
Who
me,
else is in it? Someone
Nick,
awesome.
and-
Mike Lasham, I think, right? Is it Mike
Is it
Lasham?
Mike? Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
Mike the Piper. Good Lord.
God damn it, that's it. You know, Chad, I said this on the in the Lore Keepers the other day, but Chad and Mike the Piper are both a better Locrius than Locrius. So
Did you see
thanks,
the
Chad,
comments?
for not. I appreciate you like not really doing the Locrius voice today because I would just be feeling bad about myself.
Nah, man. Like the thing is, like, knowing you were gonna do it, I was like, well, look, he's a mimic for a reason, and so he's going to mimic what he admires most, right? Like, Locrius is someone that he looked up to as a brother, and so for those of you who watched that Affairs with Dragons game, like, it made sense for me to do that voice because I feel like the two of them, no matter what happened to Locrius the Nefarious,
Nothing's
Locrius
gonna
the
happen to him,
Voiceless,
man. He's gonna be just fine.
gonna be just fine. Not a damn thing is gonna happen to this motherfucker tonight. Not a damn thing. I'm gonna make sure that every saving throw, everything that I throw at this dude is gonna go directly to me. I'm gonna draw all of the aggro. Every ounce of aggro is gonna go to this motherfucker right here.
This is the shit I've been talking about, Chad. That shit right there. That's the shit I'm. Okay. I'm sorry, Jake, for derailing it so much, but yeah, we're playing in.
I had to, man.
The
I
Eagle
had to.
Feeders campaign is Lloyd's game for anybody who's wondering. It's the Eagle Feeders. And Chad, man, that Locrius thing freaks me out, but it's awesome. It's good.
One quick thing. Yeah, somebody in the chat early on, Locrius, said that you, Locrius, are now the fourth best Locrius impersonator.
I think I'm the fifth, man, because like Matt Click does a really good Locrius, and Rob Coletta pulled out, oh my god, in the last Lore Keepers game. If you guys like me and Chad, you could check out on Performance Check. We're playing a game with Rob Coletta. You should check it out, not because of us, we're okay, but Rob Coletta is unbelievable as a dungeon master. Like,
Oh,
that
man.
dude
Yeah,
is
we're
next
pretty much
level. He's so
average.
good. Holy crap.
We're just the average. We are the crap level average. We are the B team. We are pretty much Suicide Squad, and he is like up here in upper echelons. He's just doing awesome. I love it. I can't help it, but love like this fan.
All right, we are ready to jump back into it as Locrius the Nefarious and Chatarax the Mimic have beat feet and beat wings to get the heck out of Dodge and out of the range of Azure's mangled fury, as he has sent them north to Cedric's Hollow in search of the infamous gnomish monster hunters, the Belgrade brothers. They are hurtling through the air, traveling for a few hours at least, leaving behind the arid desert, traveling over cold, rocky terrain that quickly gives way to a light dusting, then a firm covering, and finally into the permafrost territory of the far northern wastes. You know of the place called Cedric's Hollow, for it is one of the only humanoid settlements on the fringe of the crown of the world, as the North is known. In part because this was, up until recently, apparently, the lair of Aurealis the White, a powerful old adult, not quite ancient, but old adult white dragon, who apparently has moved on. Azure told you that Cedric's Hollow was the location of his encounter with the Belgrade brothers. Describe for me, as you are flying in, what you see below you as you approach this northern town of Cedric's Hollow, knowing that you can quickly see that no people seem to be there.
I imagine that as the dunes give way to mountains and the mountains give way to snow, we see coniferous trees sticking up like canine teeth of winter shooting up into the air. And I imagine as we see Cedric's Hollow, we see small motes of black smoke cutting against the white snow. And Locrius turns to his brother. I'm sure during the beginning of our expedition on this mission, there was probably an air of joviality, that high knowing that we're on a mission that could make us some of the richest dragons in the world. But as we get close, I think that Locrius's demeanor changes, and his brother would probably see a little bit of fear on his face. And he turns to his brother and he says, you know, I can't believe a couple gnomes cut that dude's wings off. They must be true badasses of the highest caliber of badassery. And I'm just saying, if we decide not to fight these little maggots ourselves, we could always return and fight Azure the Opulent in his weakened state. Just throwing it out there as a possibility.
I like your thoughts, brother.
I do. Don't get me wrong. As they're both, I imagine they're both flying almost in tandem as they're talking to one another, one over the other.
However, at the positives, if we return back to Azure, we get 1/5 of his hoard. Do you know how much gold that is? We don't even have enough servants in our own hoard to carry that much gold. I think that this is an excellent opportunity for us to show our stuff to an older dragon. If we succeed, can you imagine? He might give us the entire
Well, I do take your point, but if that motherfucker's dead, we could take it all. And he shakes his head. Oh, who am I kidding? Even without wings, he'd still take us out, I'm sure. All right, let's find these little interlopers and show them what a couple real blue dragons can do. As he swoops down low, I imagine that we see a couple of snaking roads through the snowy area, and Locrius cuts low down under the tree line, and I imagine stops flying when he approaches the town proper and starts creeping through the woods to try to see what's going on there.
Chatarax would follow in tandem, and I imagine that Chatarax would even try to swoop in almost vertically to the point where he tries to not have any snow disturb on the tree line. Just quiet as he can, dipping inside a small alcove or little sort of clearing. He just slithers his way next to his brother, and I imagine just 4 eyes in this tree line, these blue azure eyes staring out from a white, almost frost-covered tree line.
What is our next move?
As you guys approach and kind of stealthily move through the tree line, you begin to take in the center of the town. And as these 2 blue dragons are in the wood line creeping, you see in the ruin of structures of houses in the town of Cedric's Hollow, you see a figure standing there staring right at you. Describe for these blue dragons what they see in this clearing, newcomer. That newcomer would be you, Tim.
Sorry, my daughter is with me and she was talking.
No problem.
So it's very immersive. So what they would see is a weathered gnome with thick salt and pepper sideburns, leathers and various trinkets and bags, satchels and things, dirt and dust on his face. And he would say, "Dragons, give us your wings. Yes? And perhaps I will let you live."
And telepathically between the two, I imagine he looks over at Locrius. Chaterax looks over. This will just ask us to give him. I think he must be absolutely delusional.
I'm not too worried about him right now. You can see the frills, the spines on the back of Locrius stand up as he says, "I'm wondering where his goddamn brother is." As he jumps up and spins around like as if, I imagine, like chases his tail for a second in fear. And I imagine that any seasoned dragon hunter would be able to see this, that he's startled and in a sort of a frightened state.
Well, Graham, Gant, Geiger, and Groots. These dragons smell like the inside of my boots. And running out of the brush comes the other dragon toward this, or the other dragon hunter toward the dragon that's circling and beginning to sort of spine up. And I'm going to make an attack. So I'm going to rush in and hopefully slash Locrius with my 2 swords, my scimitar and my short sword.
All right.
All right, so feeling a little rusty, probably, and possibly at the belying the confidence that he's showing, he rushes in, and I think that with a 13 and a 15, Locrius very easily gets out of the way.
I would like to think that your sneak attack was solid, even though, Locrius might have thought that he knew something was happening. I imagine that the swords clang off of blue scales as he spins around and turns to face you. And you see him leering down. He's only a young dragon, but he's still large-sized, far larger than a gnome. As his wings flare back, you see the frills on his back and the glistening of his claws. And he says, "That smell you smell? That's the funk, motherfucker." As he launches an attack on you. I don't know if you want. Should we roll initiative to be fair?
Yeah, I was gonna say. At this point, James rolled a pretty high stealth before he ever even came in, so he got that kind of surprise on you. So at this point, I'll go ahead and have the four of you roll initiative, and let kind of James, or rather Chad and Locrius, recover from the shock of you two showing up, and the chat seems to be blowing up at your appearance as well. And I'm pretty much here to referee some PvP on you guys. And I'll throw in a few things, some interruptions from time to time, but you guys all know what your attacks and your ACs are, so. And of course, I'll monitor the initiative here. Are you kidding me? Chad, James, and Locrius, you all need to roll again.
No, I got the lowest, man.
Or not Locrius, sorry. James, Tim, and Chad all got 12s.
So you are the GM, but I was under the impression that it goes to who has the highest dexterity, or do you want to just splat roll again?
We could do that. Yeah, we can do that.
I only want to do that because my dex is 20, and I don't know what their dexes are, but it might mean I go first.
All right, so what's you got a 20 dex? What do you got, Chad?
My dex is, oh, sorry.
All right, so then that's going to go, we're going to go James, Tim, Chad, and Locrius. That is our initiative order, and I'll put that in the chat.
James is on it, man. He's already got it up there.
Yeah, so I imagine that Locrius, I know I'm going last, but I imagine that he feels like he's towering over this gnome. Clearly, this gnome should be frightened by him, and I imagine he probably exposes his underbelly with his hubris.
And so after the slight clang of the scales, the short sword and the scimitar coming off of these scales, despite potentially a pretty good sneak attack, V is ready to again double strike whatever he can of this dragon, like you said, with his belly up. He's going to basically do his best to strike you and cut all your guts out. My dice tower ate my die. 1 second. Okay, so a little better. So 2 attacks. That's one is 26, and one is 12.
26 hits.
All right. So awesome. Max damage. That is 11. So 11 damage with the scimitar comes in, and it again sort of skims off. You get a little bit of sparks, but it's almost a feint to some degree. It seems like, as the short sword comes in right after it to pierce for 11 damage. And with that, he would sort of V would ready himself, still beneath and around this dragon, not necessarily breaking. Actually, you guys are a lot bigger than us. I think there are rules for that, right? We can like run all around you.
Yep.
With 2 sizes bigger, yeah, I think there is some rule. I don't know what it is. But...
Yeah, you can move through a space of a creature that is 1 size larger than you. I have that because I'm a gnome, but because you guys are way bigger, basically, I don't think it will really. I don't know that this will affect it because there's no facing in 5e. But in that case, I would probably run sort of all around. You know, you're trying to get a bead on me, and I would be running beneath you all over and kind of scratching and skimming with the sword, my short sword and my scimitar, trying to find a, some weak spots, if you will.
Was that a question to me? Sorry, I'm trying to do too much.
No, I finished, and I think it's Tim's turn.
Oh,
basically,
yeah.
I attacked. I was doing some flavor, and then Tim's up.
All right, excellent. And then it's Tim, you're up.
So as I see my brother, both literally and in game, come and sort of like he starts this skirmish. I know that it's time to begin, and so I start sort of psyching myself up. I start sort of moving around, and then I grab one of the satchels, and a little tether breaks on it, and I hurl it in the air. And then as it's careening through the air, I grab a crossbow from my hip, and this crossbow bolt splits this bag. And this dust just, right? And it's like a sphere, and it starts sort of falling. It's this innocuous nothingness of dust right in front of Chazarax. And then you hear popping and snapping. As all these pieces of dust begin to turn into these horrific insects and just sail toward him and swarm him. Chazarax, you have to make a Constitution saving throw, and you will take 4d10 piercing damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one.
Touche, my brother. Okay, let's see. Okay, hopefully this works. So what's the DC save that I need to make?
You tell me what you rolled, and I'll tell you the DC right after.
All right, so I rolled modifier.
Fire.
With modifier, I rolled 14.
Spell save is 15.
Dang it! Ah! Tim, you are my bane. I'm gonna die. At least if I die to you, I'll feel somewhat uncomfortable.
So these insects, and if it's okay with everybody, I would love to roll the die.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Do it, man.
Sweet.
Do it up.
All right, so that is, oh yeah! I got a 10. I got a 2. I got a 6. And then 9. 26 damage.
How does Chazarax respond to a swarm of insects, finding every chink in his scales and dealing damage to him?
Okay. Well, first I crapped my blue britches because that was ridiculous. I imagine that Chazarax is just gobsmacked at the fact that these two gnomes just out of nowhere throwing this much offense their way. And what in the name of dragon hells is this? And you can just see him taking his claws and just swatting the air, probably even breaking a few trees out of the way as he's trying to like claw and gnash these flying insects out of his face as he's getting just eaten alive.
You tiny little gnome, where are you?
And he's almost blinded by the amount of there. And he is going to try and whip out a attack with his claws and his teeth, nearest brother to him, even though he is temporarily probably at a disadvantage in trying to find where he's at.
That would be me.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a multi-attack and try to claw and bite at you in this moment of just sheer fray panic. I'm just going to swipe and gnash at your face.
No.
So, okay. So the bite is a... Whoa. Had a minute. It's going to be 18 to hit.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and roll all of them real quick, and then we'll do the damage later.
Are you a bite and one claw multi-attack, or are you a bite and two claws?
I'm going to just do bite and one claw because I feel like he wouldn't have the wherewithal. He'd have to keep one on the ground to kind of keep his composure with all these insects flying in his face. I'm just going to do bite and one claw for this attack. And then that one would be so 25 for the other hit. Okay, so they both hit. And now I got to determine where's my damage. So here, 2d10 plus 5. Okay. So total of 15 damage there for you, Timmy boy. 15. So I imagine you see
Okay.
you see Chatterax just fighting
Okay,
off
baby.
the swarm, and it's just
Come here, you.
like I imagine he's trying to pick you up in his claw and crush you. So he crushes you first, and then just shoulder that you threw that rips into it and then flings you outward away from him, like, get away from me, you bug.
And that's going to lead us into Locrius the Nefarious.
And as this fight gets underway, the scimitar digs deep underneath Locrius's ribs, this small gnome darting in and out between his legs, perhaps, around. And he's a little bit discombobulated. He sees his brother enveloped in this swarm of insects as he all of a sudden gets his bearing. He spins around and ducks low, flanking, like imagine a dragon in Skyrim, low, so that his maw is right in front of the gnome that just stabbed him, circling until he sees his brother behind him. You see Locrius's eyes flash blue and motes of lightning wreath around his teeth as his eyes narrow, as he leers into you, and he says, "Flash before my eyes. Now it's time to die." He opens his maw and unleashes his lightning breath in a line, trying to get both of the brothers. I will need DC 16 dexterity saving throws from each of you. Sorry, I'm rolling a fistful of dice over here.
I was just going to say that. You probably are literally rolling a fistful of dice to deal that lightning damage out. As electrical energy dances across the snow and bounces off of the ruined buildings.
Damn. This is gonna hurt, gentlemen. I just rolled 10d10, and I got 47 points of lightning damage. And as he does so, he looks around and his wings beat into the air as he lifts up. He's going to fly. I believe I will provoke an attack of opportunity from James, if you want to take that.
Yeah, 47 damage. I think I will. Oh my god!
Wait, what did you roll?
I rolled a 3.
Oh, you rolled a 3. Tim, you saved for half damage.
Oh no, yeah, for the I took all the damage. I ended up getting a 13 on the, but yeah. Oh man,
yeah.
Boy.
James took full damage. Tim took half damage.
Yeah, on the attack of opportunity, I rolled a 3, so I definitely missed that.
And it damaged Tim's mute button.
Yeah, so the scimitar again clangs off of Locrius's scales as he flies up over. He can fly very fast, so he's going to land down behind one of these buildings, and perhaps the brothers can see him peering around, but he's going to try to give him some cover over there. As I end my turn.
All right, and after you take that kind of weak swing, dazed by the lightning, as Locrius takes to the air, it's now your action to make a full attack. James.
So Locrius has flown away. I missed horribly. How far away is Chatarax? He's still on the ground, right?
Yes.
Like he didn't fly away or anything. Basically,
I haven't flown away yet. No.
I would love to run over to him and attack. I'm assuming they weren't, hundreds of feet away.
No, you absolutely can do that.
Awesome. Oh my god. Okay, so hopefully your armor class isn't that high. 13 to hit for Chatarax. I'm guessing no. Yeah, okay. So running over, even with the swarm that's probably now dissipating after Locrius flies away and behind a building, behind some cover, just to get in as much damage as possible as quickly as possible, because in a war of attrition with dragons, gnomes tend to not do so well. So just trying to dish out as much as he can, he runs over to Chatarax, and again, he must not quite be on his game. He thinks he sees a spot, a weak spot, a tender spot, and he goes to slide his short sword in, and it just clangs off, and he sends a little, a slightly concerned look to his brother.
And so seeing this, I can see what's going on, and from an entirely different direction, from another, like if Locrius just came and flew behind, Chazarax is clawing, etc., you see behind all of that occurring this bolt of enormous flame. And so Chazarax, as you basically, as you claw into this, and as you guys are doing this, what you see is that the form that you claw into and that Locrius shoots this lightning into dissipates into dust. And the true Oliver Belgrade steps from behind a rock and launches this insane one-handed magical spell at you. You have been fighting an illusion. This is the same trick. Thank you, my deity, Silas the Liar. This is the same trick that worked on Azure, you foolish dragons. And I'm shooting Flame Strike at Chazarax from behind. And so Flame Strike is this vertical column of divine fire, basically, that roars down from the heavens. And I'm going to do it right on top of Chazarax. It's any creature in a 10-foot radius, a 40-foot high cylinder. And you have to make a dexterity saving throw, Chazarax, or this pillar of flame is going to engulf you, much like it did Azure.
Oh my God. Seriously? Good Lord, that is beautiful. Okay.
Trickster Domain Clerics, they're underrated, baby.
Dude, I'm about to play, like, seriously, I'm putting that on my checklist of things I have to play before I die. Like, holy goodness. Okay. So I need to make a dexterity saving throw? I want everyone for the record to notice I rolled a 1. Like, no way in the world could this be the worst time thing. But crit fail. So, Tim, I will lend it to you since this was my crit fail. And you describe the damage that you inflict upon me, because I would like to see what you think that is.
So, Jake, anything in particular? It depends on how you want to handle a crit fail on a spell like this, because sorry, your show's coming on, baby. So it's a spell, so it does 4d10, and so it's up to you as far as how you want to do that, because it was a crit fail or whatever.
I've got something in mind. Go ahead and roll your damage and narrate the attack, and then I will tell you what happened also as a result of the crit fail.
That's perfect. And I was mistaken. It's actually 4d6 flame damage and 4d6 radiant damage. So it's 8d6.
Get some more fistfuls of dice in there.
No kidding. Okay, don't worry. I rolled kind of low. Okay. So that is a total of 27 points of damage.
And what does that look like as this fire rains down over this dragon?
I want to do the whole, like, control it with two hands, where it's like this. The heavens open immediately above, just not high in the sky, like above this dragon, and just a rift opens as though the sky is on fire in another dimension. And it just and starts, and I'm just pushing it from the top of his head back, just trying to really get that center mass of his back and burn off those wings.
And as this fire rains down across your scales and your back, Chazarax, you were just so taken by the illusion, so caught by surprise, that your instinct was actually to kind of dig your talons into the snow. And as a result, as this fire washes over you and instantly turns the snow around you into steam and water, the freezing temperatures, as soon as the flame dissipates, instantly turns that back into ice. And you are now immobilized. You're, for all intents and purposes, you're restrained in the snow. It'll take you a strength check and as an action on your turn, which is now, in order to try to escape, unless you have an attack you want to make that doesn't require the use of all 4 of your talons.
First off, cause words, man. that just happened. So this is really awesome. So what I want to do is I imagine fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. I am Chatterax, the mimic, the blue. I am going to fuck you up, son. It is gonna happen. So here's what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen? I am going to wheel around. I can't move my limbs, but I can certainly move my neck. So I'm getting pelted with this fire. Feel it festering in my throat, festering in my jowls, and I whip my neck around back to you, Timmy Tim, and I'm going to laser beam a shot of electric at your face.
Mouth lasers! I just love the image of this big blue dragon frozen into the ground.
Okay, so I guess with the electric, I just have to have you beat a DC 16 saving throw because it goes for a 60-foot line and 5 foot wide. So you just have to beat a DC 16, Tim.
Nope.
Okay.
I failed.
So
yeah, that's a modified 8.
Oh,
so do you want me to roll the 10d10 or do you want to just take the automatic 55?
You could roll because I'll win out if you roll. It'll be less.
Okay.
roll it up.
Statistically.
As Chatterax, the mimic, is frozen into the ground, he opens his maw and shoots a line of pure electrical energy, bigger in diameter than even the gnome that is the target. He had no chance to dodge out of the way of this and takes the electrical energy full in the face. And then it briefly looks like that scene in Home Alone when he grabs the wash basin. And you can see his skeleton flashing. I can only stall so much, Chad.
What you don't know is that the
I'm rolling
Belgrade,
10d10.
the Belgrade brothers are actually the wet bandits of your world.
Right.
Sticky bandits. No, James, what are sticky bandits?
It takes a long time to roll 10d10. I'm not used to doing any kind of maths or anything. I was like, this is going to be awesome. That's...
Yeah, I should have learned something from Lloyd's Jotun game last year where they were dealing hundreds of points of damage per round. But at this point, while he's finishing that up, Locrius, give me a quick perception roll.
I got it real quick, though. Okay, so, Tim, you were wrong. Because statistically, like, that worked out, but not in your favor this time. I rolled 64 points of damage.
Ooh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Locrius, as this gnome, as this electrical energy arcs across this gnome, and he's just blasted with this energy, and I imagine he goes flying. He goes flying backwards. You catch a whiff beyond the ozone of the dragon breath, beyond the scent of the snow and everything else, and you sense what you think Azure was talking about when Azure said he could smell something strange and foreign about these gnomes, that they weren't from around here, that there's a darkness, a foreignness to them, and as Azure said, a bleakness to them. That word comes to your mind. And it is Locrius, it is your turn.
And as he sniffs the air and smells that foul, foul smell, he breathes in deep, looking to his draconic reservoirs. Oh, that was a 3. My breath didn't recharge. So he smells that funk. It's not the funk. It's something nasty, but quite unfunky.
Cooking.
And that pisses
It's
him
cooking
off.
gnomes. You're smelling me cooking. That's what you're smelling.
Cooking gnomes, exactly. He you know what? He smells for the gnome, and he's gonna go after the most stank acidus gnome that he can smell. He's gonna launch himself forward and attack. I imagine that. I mean, I don't know who it would be. I imagine he'll attack Tim. He'll attack Tim because Tim has been like blinking around. There was clearly an illusion, and in fact, as he launches himself forward, he listens, he smells, he uses his blind sight to try to detect whether or not this is really the gnome or an illusion. And then he's going to launch 3 attacks on whatever he thinks it is. So let's do this real quick.
Your blind sight would let you know that this is truly, this is the actual physical gnome.
All right, that's a natural 1 on my first roll. I will roll my. I will use my 1 point of inspiration to re-roll that.
All right.
So that's a 19 to hit.
Jake, do we get inspiration? What's going on?
That's a 27 to hit.
Those
And that
hit.
is a 26 to hit.
Oh yeah, all 3 of those hit.
All right, so here, let's roll a bunch of dice and play. Locrius is bad at math. Okay, so the first one is 2d10.
As you went for Tim's character, Oliver, not Olive, olive oil. As he just got hit by that massive lightning blast, the song that came into my mind was that kick them all up, kick them all down, kick them all up, kick them all down. I can't remember who that is.
Is it okay if I just? Is it okay if I total everything? Tim, do you have any resistances? Because I'll total everything up. Okay.
No resistance, just an aversion to death.
That's going to be a total of 43 points of damage. We see him beat his wings as he leaps over his brother. I imagine that he gives him a wink in the eye, like, watch what I'm about to do. As he slashes down with one claw deep into the gnome's shoulder, slashes down into the other one, picks him up off the ground for a moment, grabs him in between his teeth, and throws him back down onto the ground. As I end my turn.
So, Tim, does that knock you out, or
That would knock me out.
Outright?
No, it doesn't kill me outright. That would drop me, but that wouldn't kill me outright because the first few things of damage they did were to the illusion, so I still had a full hit point pool.
So yeah, as he kind of deals this whirlwind of attacks right after you take this electrical damage, I imagine there's just this moment where this gnome just kind of staggers for a second and then just kind of looks over at his brother and falls backwards unconscious. And that's going to take us up to V.
Can I actually just use like a free action? As this happens, I think Locrius would turn to the brother and he'll say, now wait a minute. He'll hold out his claw like this. He'll say, you mean to tell me that you cut the wings off of Azure the Opulent? Was that you? Because your brother lies dying at my feet. So if you want to parlay, you better start talking right now.
And from V, a scream, seeing his brother go down. he, after seeing all of that, and if I'm not mistaken, Chatarax is still stuck in the ground. You never made a
That is
strength check
correct.
to get out?
I didn't make a strength check to get out because I didn't move my legs. I just swung my neck around and blasted him in the face with lightning.
So, I haven't dealt with death much, and I would like to possibly bring Oliver back. I don't know that this is a good idea. You know, try and medicine check and heal him. I think that's going to take my whole action though, and that's going to be worthless. So I'm considering that maybe we're just going to like Dirty Harry it. This is a hard one. So I will scream and try. You know what? I'm gonna roll for it. Can you, Locrius, actually roll intimidation? Maybe. Basically, like I want to see if you get to me enough that I can keep a cool head, or that I just go and attack Chatarax.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just roll. I'll roll a straight charisma check, so that should be a +3. What do we got?
Jeez, I don't even have to DM here.
22 on the dice.
That's a 19 on the die, man. I swear, Tim, I got these dragon dice a long time ago. I've never used them, and they're like rolling on fire. It's crazy.
Because they're real dragon.
Yeah,
They're real dragons.
dice. So as much as tactically I would like to rush over and help my brother, I think with a 19 charisma check, he's gonna go for Chatarax. But I do have all these cool things I can do. So one, and tell me if this makes sense. I haven't played a level 10 fighter before, but I have a thing called Action Surge that allows me to take an extra action. I have a thing called Second Wind that I want to use as that extra action, which allows me to regain 10 plus my level of hit points, I think.
I think Second Wind is a bonus action.
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
So you could Second Wind and take 2 attack actions, or whatever 2 actions you wanted to.
That is correct.
So I'm not going to argue with you because it makes my turn easier. I'll learn the rules later. So I am, in that case, definitely going to Second Wind, which does get me 1d10 plus my fighter level, so 18 back, which it's not quite that much, but I'll take it. And then I am going to rush Chatarax, and here I'm gonna stretch this a little more because Chatarax is stuck in the ground. I don't think that he would get dexterity on his armor class if he does currently. What do you think? Or maybe I get advantage on attack. Whatever. I just think I should get something because my brother mashed him into
You
the
definitely
ground.
get advantage.
You get
on the
advantage
attack.
on the attack, though. I mean,
Because I really need it.
yeah, it'd be 18 AC though. You got to be.
Now advantage on both attacks. Attacking
All
twice.
attacks. Yeah.
Yes, all attacks. He's
attacks
restrained.
The level
I'm
10 fighter.
restrained, so
Okay, well I'm gonna need it. Okay, so that's a modified 19 and a 20 on the die. I'm not even gonna roll the advantage on the second one because I don't need it. So a 19 and a 20. Actually, I also have a thing called improved critical, where my weapon attacks score critical hits on 19s and 20s. Now, that's a roll of 19, not a modified 19, right? Because I didn't roll 19
Correct.
on the first.
It is a roll.
Yeah,
Right.
so
yes,
Okay,
that is
so
a
only
roll
one
of
crit.
19.
only one critical hit. Now they're both the same damage, and okay, so some people do critical hits differently. I don't actually know what the rules are because I've done them. How do you want to do a critical?
Chad, I love you. I don't want you to die, but if you're a 10th level fighter, when you take the attack action, you'll get 2 attacks. And then if you action surge, you'll get 2 more attacks. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, yeah, that's
Oh,
actually
the-
right. You actually do, James. You get 4 attacks because you action surge as a bonus. You get attack and extra attack. Then your action surge gives you an attack and an attack. So you have 2 more attack rolls coming.
Okay, all right. So, okay.
So, and while you're doing that, when you do roll damage for critical, roll your damage dice twice, then add your modifier.
Okay. So we have 2 hits, 1 crit. I'm gonna roll 2 more attacks. a 2, so that one definitely doesn't hit.
Kill Chad. Just kill him.
And that is a modified 20. So 3 hits total, 1 crit. Now I don't do that much damage, but all that. So so you said roll twice, add modifier. And 1 more. So all told, that is 31 points of damage. Now, I don't think that kills the dragon, but I'd like to think that it did something.
Yeah, I've been trying to track the hit point loss here, but I think I might have missed one on Chad. But I know Chatterax has taken quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, I'm down. Just for the record, I'm down to 86 hit points. So I'm down. I'm hurting.
Are you hurting?
Yeah, I'm hurting a little bit.
I think we should have had a little bit more detail with Jake here. Say, okay, what level are they and how many hit points? Jake, stack the deck.
So rushing over after seeing his brother go down, and especially the way that he did with the sort of gloating from Locrius, he takes the chance. Tactically, he knows that Chatterax is the easy target, sort of stuck in the ground, probably still embers coming off of his wings, probably little holes here and there, and he rushes, and it's just a flurry of blades, and he does his best to probably slice up a leg portion as much as he can of Chatterax with the 31 damage.
And that then is going to take us to Tim, who Oliver. You said I saw the only name I saw was Olive. So
James typoed Olive. Oh, Popeye! I'm a dragon hunter.
Yeah, it was an accident.
So that's going to be a death saving throw for Olive.
All right, Jam. So my death saving throw is a 13.
So we'll count that as one success. As Chatterax, still frozen in the ground, bleeding, scorched, having expended a full charge of his lightning breath. What are you going to do, Chatterax, the mimic?
Well, I just got like Neutron-ninja'd by
Slam.
by freaking James, just chopped up like a dicer. Like, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try and break out of this ice and move and try to get some of my movement back.
DC 40.
DC strength check though, and then what am I aiming for to beat?
Just roll your strength.
Okay. 17.
You strain, pulling where the ice has settled around you. Fortunately, it only froze around the edges fully because of the heat that was still coursing through your body and your own body heat anyway. You strain, and then you hear the cracking sound as you break free. First, your I imagine your four talons, and then as you're able to kind of push away, you break loose with your back talons, and you are now no longer restrained.
Awesome. So I kind of unfurl myself and just hunting V. He looks at him in the face.
Now that I'm free, you need to run. Go on. I like a good chase.
And I'm going to take a moment to try and recharge my lightning breath and see if I get that real quick. Yeah! Rolled a 5. So, I basically just pull myself out of this gout of water and ice, and just a straight line toward him. I am going to just puff my chest up. And you can just start to see lightning scorch and rip through these white, tough trees, sort of making a wave cresting on either side as it sort of shoots a line of that lightning damage straight out of the hole.
So 21, I think last time it was reflex save, so I'll take half of however many D10.
Half of whatever. Yeah, half of whatever many that I roll.
Dexterity save.
Yeah.
We'll never not call it a reflex save.
So here, let's do this. 1, 2, 3.
Roll them bones.
Okay, hold on.
James, I think you have to preface a statement like that with "Hold my beer."
Hold my dice, I'm going in.
Definitely need like a soundboard with some music to fill the interludes of dice rolling.
Okay.
Yeah, that high level action.
Okay. So yeah, 41. So you would take that was what I rolled. So you would take a total
20.
of 20 damage.
And I am on the ground unconscious, so I would explode like a watermelon.
Are you
That
in,
would-
are you
that
in the line of fire? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Because where you were, yeah, literally.
Well, no, 'cause I think-
you ran right past me.
Well,
In
and
my mind, oh, go ahead, Jake.
no, I want to hear what you're going to say because it might be better.
I was going to say, in my mind, you guys were facing off. I attacked Locrius. I ran to the back of Chatterax. You were in the front. That attack happened, and I was attacking the back. So he turned to me to shoot it. So maybe he hit Locrius. I don't know.
Yeah, because
Just
you weren't there anymore. I think that it just went out. I'll leave it up to you, Chatterax, to determine if Locrius was in your line of fire. Even if he was,
I imagine.
well, I mean, if he was, he'd have to make that dex save.
I imagine we know each other better, and I think he knows when to duck out of the way as a brother of lightning and storms. When you hear that sucking in of vital lung capacity, it's like, okay, time to move out of the way.
And we did establish that you guys have an telepathic link, so I think he would know that that's coming, and would be able to avoid it if it were in the line of fire. So
yeah, and so I think also, if memory serves me correct, Tim, I think you got launched outside of the tree line from Locrius.
I attacked him. No, I closed the distance and attacked him with melee attacks that dropped him.
Yeah,
so I'm
he didn't
standing
get
right
long
there.
enough.
Okay, yeah, no, we're good then. Okay.
So with the arcing lightning energy dissipating Locrius the Nefarious, how do you attack?
Reaching down with a glistening blue claw and lifting up the unconscious gnome in front of him, he addresses the brother of the gnome again as he breathes in. Oh, that's a 4. I didn't get my breath back, unfortunately. And he says, "This is your last chance. Surrender, or I bite his head off." And I guess can I hold my action? I'll hold my action to attack Tim. I'm basically using him as a hostage.
Absolutely. Dun dun dun. That takes it to James V.
This is probably one of the most interesting situations I've been in because it's PvP. Playing my character, he squares up to this dragon, his brother unconscious in his hand. And he says to the unconscious body and partly to Chatarax, but mostly to Locrius, I always knew he'd die first. Go on. And I would basically begin charging, no surrender, charging Locrius to attack once again.
All right. As you're charging, it's up to you, Locrius. If you're going to take that action before he gets to you.
Locrius will take that action. I imagine as in slow motion he's running forward through the snow. He sees his brother's life in his grasp, and the dragon just reaches, like he's pulling the gnome's arms apart. Pop, pop, and as the body's falling, his mouth bites down on the gnome's head. As I get multi-attack, 3 attacks, so that's 1 failed death save, 2 failed death save. Oh wait, do I need to roll to attack though?
I think with an unconscious dying character, and particularly in this narrative style, that's an auto hit, auto crit situation.
All right, and there's a fountain of blood as the gnome's head gets bit off and his carcass falls to the ground. And with a smiling red grin, Locrius leans down to meet the charging foe.
As V charges through a blood red mist, and Tim, as Olive is dead.
Man, I really took away from that by mistyping Olive. But that was Locrius' turn, and it is actually my turn, right?
It is, yes. So go for it. Yeah, you can attack.
Yeah, so what's that, Jake?
No, I was saying, yeah, it's your attack.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, I gotta look at the things I can do because I think I can add this die to my attack if I hit. So charging toward Locrius, like you said, through this mist of blood, V is absolutely unfazed. You don't become a dragon hunter, a monster hunter, without knowing what that might mean. And brother or not, they knew one day they would eventually meet their fate. They didn't think it would be against, a dispatch of the dragon that they almost killed, that they almost stole the wings from. But you never know, which one it's going to be. Before every hunt, they share a drink, and they, get a mug of ale each right before they go out on whatever it is, whatever outing it is, whether it's a werewolf or a dryad or maybe they're venturing into the Underdark to kill or capture something. And they tap their mugs on the table and they cheers, and may no drink ever be our last, they say, and they gulp it down as they go. And so charging Locrius, V screams, and may never drink ever be our last. And it is an 8 to hit and a 18 to hit. I think the 18 hits, right?
18 hits, yep.
All right. So that is 10, and I'm going to add the D8 superiority die. I have a few of those. So 18 damage total. A flurry of blows at the, through the pink mist, charging, jumping through, possibly at the face and chin, the bloodied face of Locrius.
Absolutely. I imagine the slash comes down and gives him a nasty gash across his face, and he reels back disoriented for a moment, not ready to act, as I think it's Chatarax's turn.
It is indeed Jetrex's turn.
And Chatarax steps forward, his paws of heat just creating divots of steam in the snow.
Now. You can be as brave as you like, but I am a understanding dragon. You get one last chance to give up, to stop fighting. Surrender yourself to me.
And he points his claw, this golden taloned claw, forward.
Step forward, young enough. Come closer to me.
And I'm going to hopefully be able to cast Charm Person on V as he's staring and fighting with my brother. I'm going to try to draw him forward and draw him towards me and convince him to surrender. And I believe that's a DC 15 for my spell save.
I think he gets advantage because we're fighting him. Is
Yeah.
it the Charms Person spell?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would anyway because of his gnome cunning.
So,
Right,
so Jake,
okay.
I messaged you. I want to narrate what happened, if that's okay with you, without making it clear whether I succeeded or failed to save.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, V, immediately after all of this heartfelt moment after losing his brother, he begins to feel lightheaded and groggy almost, and he turns toward Chatarax, and as the words sort of flow through him, he drops his swords, his two swords on the ground, and he begins sort of lumbering toward, very, I wouldn't say zombie-like, but very unnaturally, as though he were a puppet on a string, and he's walking toward Chatarax. He says, "Oh, okay, all right. Yeah." And he can't really get the words out. He's not really sure. He says, I just, please, just one more thing.
Yes, my child. What is it that you wish to ask your new master?
And I'm going to apologize in advance to you, Jake, for this one. He looks Chatarax right in the eyes and he says, "Go fuck yourself." And I activate a magic item. We got, I think, one uncommon magic item or whatever it was.
Yep.
I didn't pick one, but I'm gonna make it up for fun. So I rolled a 20 on the check, by the way, and basically V activates what is more or less a self-destruct. It's a stick of dynamite. We'll call it a ring, of sort of suicide, and he activates it, and it can do whatever damage you want. I don't think it's gonna kill them, but basically he absolutely goes out in a blaze of glory, hopefully giving one of them maybe a scar at least to remember him by, but absolutely following his brother and just becoming a pink mist.
So that is absolutely awesome. And since you made something up, I'm going to make something up for damage. I imagine, first of all, that Chatarax the Mimic actually, as you said this, you kind of leaned down to him, thinking you had complete control over him. And Locrius, you're kind of on the other side. I'm going to roll a D8. And the number I roll is the number of D10 damage that you're going to deal from this explosion. It's only a 2, so I'll roll 2d10. I didn't want to just arbitrarily make up a number, so I'll let the dice decide. That was badass.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, roll up the damage and we'll see what happens.
All right, so on 2d10, 10 damage.
So this little gnome bursts into an explosive concussive blast, exploding right in your face, Chatterax. How, as he bursts into this flame, and the red mist doesn't even have a chance to hit the snow as it's vaporized. First, Chatterax, and then Locrius, describe your reactions to this outcome.
Hoping to at least return something to Azure the Opulent. He thinks he's won. He thinks he has this in his grasp. He can see the eyes of this gnome and see that they are coming to him with just unabashed obedience. And then that light flicks off in his eyes, and then it's the big F-U to his face, and then boom, I imagine the pink mist of gnome explosion goes off in his face, and it's so cold, it's so bitter cold that the blood mist sort of dagger like shoots into his eyes and freezes like tiny blood daggers onto his skin and into his flesh, and he just sort of that little bastard, where did he go? And he thinks for a minute that he might have just done that illusion like his brother and just wafted into nowhere, and he feels like it might have been an illusion. So he's not entirely sure that he's dead yet, but then he sniffs the air and smells that iron and that blood, and he licks whatever is still warm from his chin.
Well, I suppose the deed is done. How did you fare?
As this explosion happens, we back up in time for a moment and see it from Locrius's perspective. I imagine there's a sucking in of air and that pressure in his ears. At the last moment, he unfurls one of his wings in front of him, and most of the brunt of the blast is absorbed from that. His ears are ringing. There's an acrid smell in the air. He looks over at his brother, still standing, covered in the gore of what once was a gnome who tapped into powers not from this world. That smell, that funk that isn't funky, that nasty, bleak stench. He looks down, and perhaps he sees the severed hand still clutching a blade. That stink. He reaches down and holds aloft. Could this be it? It gleams in the light. Could this be the blade called Backbiter?
And indeed, you can actually smell the tang of the cold steel. You can still smell Azure's blood on this blade. This is indeed the blade that severed Azure's wings, and that this gnome thought he could sever your own wings. The battle is over. The gnomes are dead. Will you take the blade back to Azure?
Yeah, drawing in to the lightning reservoirs. Quickly and methodically, Locrius collects what pieces remain of their foes, their equipment, perhaps their packs, everything all together. And in a circle of lightning, he begins to blow his breath, heating the snow around it, causing it to melt. And then as he stops, again, it's so cold here that it hardens into a large hunk of ice. He grabs it with one claw, his pinky around the blade called Backbiter, and he turns to his brother and he says, "I'd say I fared pretty well," as he flaps his wings and flies off towards Azure.
We see blue sky high above, white clouds below. We're zooming along, the clouds moving quickly below us, and we see two shadows in the high sun reflecting down on the clouds. And soon we penetrate down through the clouds, the mist breaking around us, and we see the cold, harsh mountains of the north below us drawing ever closer as we zoom south toward the southern badlands. Soon the snow-covered mountains give way to rocky crags, barren of most life. And a few hours later, this rocky crags give way to the sand, which gives way to the rubble and dirt and gravel of the southern badlands. And we begin to see the large sandstone structures, and the largest of them looming, the tall sandstone spire that marks the lair of Azure the Opulent. And as we fly in and around the spire, zooming around it, we zoom down toward the entrance. Off in the distance, we see several miles away a nomadic encampment of Horus and the minions of Azure, where they have still stayed away from the lair where you commanded them so much earlier. And we zoom down around this tower and through the opulent front marble entrance inlaid with precious metals. And as we enter the cavernous lair, full of the treasure hoard of Azure the Opulent, to which, by an agreement, by an accord, you are entitled to a full 1/10 of. The camera comes to a halt, and we see two singed, one perhaps singed a bit more, beaten and bloodied and scarred dragons flare their wings and land. And as they present themselves before Azure the Opulent, he does not move to greet them. In fact, the wind from these twin dragons flaring their wings causes his wing cloak to kind of flutter as these two severed wings of Azure the Opulent slide down to the ground, revealing the now cold, dead form of Azure the Opulent, his one angry red eye staring into nothingness, into the oblivion, into perhaps the bleak, as he has died from his wounds. And you realize the entire horde of Azure the Opulent now belongs to you. And that is the end.
That was amazing, man.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
so good, man. Amazing narration, but
Dude,
to lead us in and to lead us out. Wow, that was great, man. Top notch.
That lead out was just totally, I just came up with that the last minute. I'm like, oh man, dude, that's an epic, that's a good bookend from the beginning. For everybody watching, for Chad, for Locrius, originally at the start of this game, other than the little bit of mental prep I did in the car rehearsing the dragon Azure himself, and coming up with just a couple of the location names, the only thing I had prepped was this single sheet of paper, and I never used it because right out of the gate you guys did 180 degrees away from what I thought you were going to do. So and it was absolutely priceless. First of all, for me as a DM, one of my favorite things when I come up with these various reveals and tricks and things, I like to watch the little thumbnails of my players and just gauge their reactions. And there are so many times during this game, if go back and watch it and just watch the miniature Chad and Locrius down in the bottom there. There were so many times I saw you guys just going, and that just tells me, holy crap, this is right.
It was great,
And,
man. It was really, I mean, yeah, it pulled me in from the beginning, and it was fun through the whole thing. I had so much fun. It was great.
You know, the thing is, like, when I went into this game, I knew I was gonna have fun because not only that, like, you guys are hands down not only some of my best friends, but like you guys just kill it with role play, and I feel so comfortable when I'm around you guys. But like Jake, there's something about your DM style that I absolutely love, because you just like you guide us and you nurture us, but like you let us literally take those reins and just run wherever we want to run with them. And it's just so free flowing and organic that I can't say enough how much I love everything about every time I play with you, man. It's just so good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was, now that our two surprise guest stars are back in for this after action review, it was also awesome as each of them came in to see in the miniature thumbnails, to see your reactions when Tim showed up. I'm really bad at keeping secrets, and Tim and James and I pitched this to Tim and James, I think almost 2 weeks ago, knowing how tight their schedules are. And so tremendous thank you to you guys for making room in your schedule, especially Tim playing some daddy daycare tonight, and still making it work. And even there were a couple times, and I even caught a little bit of the live stream you did today, Tim, where you were like, oh yeah, Jake's running this dragon game tonight, check it out. I won't be able to watch live, but I'm looking forward to watching it. There's literally one person that I told about Tim and James coming in tonight, and that was because I thought I was going to die if I didn't tell one person. I had a hangout last night, and Carol left, and then Lloyd, his cat, woke him up in the middle of the night. So we went out to have a smoke, and he jumped on. He saw I was having a hangout. We talked for about 15 minutes, and I knew we couldn't watch this game because he had to work, and he's in Ireland. So I said, dude, I got a surprise that nobody knows about. And so I told Lloyd last night. But, yeah, James threw it up in the chat, in the live chat on YouTube, that the only prep you guys actually gave me, with all the talk we had, it was mostly me telling you guys what the game was going to be. You said, how did you say it? Tell me what that was. I can't see it on here.
So I think what you're talking about is we were originally going to be dragon hunters, but I said, well, what if we were just monster hunters?
Right.
Because dragon hunters. Now I didn't know. I knew we would be level 10. I didn't know what level they were. I don't know much about dragons. I didn't look them up. I had no clue that we did not even kind of have a chance. But yeah, I was like, well, what if we were monster hunters instead? And we were probably hired by someone to go after. Was it Azure the Opulent, and get his wings. It was like a bounty job. We weren't supposed to kill him, but we needed his wings, and it was just, it worked out. It was so awesome.
It was awesome, man. And so we knew that there was going to be a special guest, but we didn't know. We had no idea who it was going to be. And when Jake said there was a pair of brothers, I was like, nah. I was like, no, that's crazy talk. There wouldn't be two special guests. So that I had that thought in my mind, but then I put it out of my mind. And then, Tim, I saw you pop up. I was like, oh, no, he didn't.
Well, yeah, like my thought was, when you said there was just one special guest, I thought, okay, cool. Well, Tim's got enough time in his schedule, he'll be in. But then like 2 seconds later, James shows up, and I'm like, oh, we got both of them. What? My whole brain just exploded, and I was just super happy.
Well, and that's what made me originally pitch it to these guys, was after we had kind of figured out for sure that the game was happening tonight, for Chad and Locrius. Just on my own. It may have been in the middle of the day. I don't remember when I messaged you guys, but I was like, hey, I got this game going on. It's Twin Dragons, so it'd be awesome if they faced off against brothers. And so we had some back and forth on it. And I think the biggest question was just what time was Tim going to be ready, because he was trying to put his daughter to bed. And I was originally, so here's what I originally had planned. I flew you guys into your lair. You guys did awesome as I expected. I handed over to you. You guys took over with the narration and setting up your characters. I had you roll that perception, and you sensed the tremors of Azure the Opulent burrowing in the miles and miles away. And then all of a sudden you guys, or what was supposed to happen was you were just going to kind of, Azure's coming back. We better, stay in line. And then he was going to summon you. Horus was going to come and get you, and then he was going to send you to the north to Cedric's Hollow, where you were going to fight a frost giant everlasting one that was actually a trap set up by these brothers. But no, immediately Locrius and Chatterax begin plotting a heist on this dragon's horde while he's gone. So that's what the whole thing became. That was so awesome. So even if I had any notes to prep for, I had no way of prepping for any of that. So I think at one point Carol actually said, I wonder how much of this Jake is just making up on the spot. And I said, all of it, Carol.
That's amazing.
I was almost 100% improv on this game. And that's just my style, how I roll. I roll with a lot of improv, but it was all of you guys that kind of, make that possible, because I know to what level I can trust my players based on how much I played with them or have seen them play, that I knew I could trust you guys to do whatever. And it's the whole reason why Tim and James, you give me one sentence of what you guys are. We're gnomish. We're the Belgrade brothers, gnomish monster hunters from a land where dragons smile differently. And that's it. I'm like, well, crap. Okay.
That's awesome. I'm just glad that I didn't die in this game to a pair of gnomes, because I would never live that down. Ian Christensen ran a game where he put it was a Lamentations of the Flame Princess game, where there was like a frog hemoth summoning and the high priest Locrius of the Bullywugs. That motherfucker got one-shotted. I got one-shotted in that game. I'm like, please don't let me die at the hands of a couple of gnomes in this game. Come on.
And yeah, so we... Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I told Jake, I said, listen, I'm going to try to kill them. I'm like, I don't think it'll be any fun if I don't play as though I'm a character, like I'm a player and you're the NPCs. And I was hoping you guys would do the same, and I'm glad that you did. But yeah, that's the one thing, is I've never really done PvP, because in a lot of cases, especially if you're in a party, it kind of, I feel like a lot of times, except for very rare exceptions, it's usually because you got mad at another player in real life and wanted to kill them. And it kind of destroys the whole thing. It's not really, it's PvP, but you're trying to kill them because you're mad at them. Whereas this was like, it was just a ton of fun. It was awesome.
It was a curious approach, because it is counter to everything we think of as good D&D. And it was interesting because knowing, for those people that have seen the Affairs of Dragon, and knowing that Chad played a character called Locrius the Voiceless and played him as Locrius, one of the concerns that both Tim and James had was, one, you guys were both really hesitant at first to even engage in PvP, but also because you didn't want to disrupt the lore, knowing that there's kind of a certain way that this is supposed to go. But I actually told Chad and Locrius, Chatterax and Locrius, not Locriax, that before we went on the air, I said, don't think about the lore. Don't think about Locrius the Voiceless. That's something I want this game to end how it ends. and apparently it's not the end of these brothers. So at some point in the future, we may have a revisitation of Locrius and Chaterax, and my hope is that, you know, no more than 2 or 3 times a year, that I can break out an Affairs of Dragons game and have it be kind of a spectacle like this. It's, for me as a DM, it's a lot of fun because it's so far away from what we normally do, where you don't have traditional players. You have players playing as dragons, but dragons have such rich personalities. And in every case, with now Locrius joining the fray, I've run 5 of these players as dragons, and every one of them created totally unique dragons. And I may do a separate video talking about this later. I think Chad, Locrius, Dave, Jeremy, and Marpause, with all of your dragons as player characters, I think people could watch your representations of dragons as kind of like a mini masterclass in how a DM can role play a dragon as having a personality, instead of as a talon and teeth machine to kill players, you know?
I was gonna say that, like, yeah, along those lines, I felt like it was really fun to play a dragon. I mean, one, because you're a goddamn dragon, that's awesome. But it's also like, I feel the stat block is like way more streamlined than a normal character sheet, right? And especially for something like a one-shot, like, I'm not worried about skills. I'm like, I have 2 skills. I have perception and stealth. That's it. Everything else is just based on my ability scores, and that's about it. Like, I got the 2 different attack things you can do, and then that's it. It makes it nice and easy to, like, just jump in. I know there were times I was like, oh, what can I do? I was like, well, I'll just do whatever the character would do. I felt like, especially for a one-shot, not knowing that much about a dragon. Like, I've never run a dragon in 5e. I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen games with them, but I'm like, I felt like it was really easy to fall into the character. I guess, though, I mean, in my unique situation, I was literally playing myself, so maybe that's why.
Right. I think that was early in the chat. There were a few people that like, wait a minute, Locrius is Locrius?
Yeah. Okay. So when I jumped in, I'm really good at forgetting everyone's names, and so I like calling people by their characters' names because I think that's way cooler. And then you guys just kept calling him Locrius. I'm like, wait, no, that's his name. Okay, you know, that's fine. It's Chaterax and there's Locrius, and then you call him and I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, what is his name? But it was every time.
I kept waiting for Chad to call Tim out on calling him Chazerax every time.
Chazerax! Chazerax!
I almost called you out on it.
Oh no, dude, that was perfectly fine. Like, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna let it slide and let it happen.
I felt like it was like he, as the gnome monster hunter, was intentionally calling you by the wrong name to get under your scales.
To goat me into attacking.
Yeah, that's actually brilliant.
That's kind of how I thought of it.
Hey, yo, you stupid Chazerax. Hey, over here, you with the face.
I'm like, hey, Chaz. Yeah, would you do me a favor, buddy? Why don't you die?
Well, I gotta say that as a DM too, I enjoyed in each of these games I played a dominant dragon figure, and I absolutely loved. I think I liked playing Azure the Opulent more than playing Chrysinatrix, the Copper Ancient, in the Affairs. And it took me a while to get away so that I wasn't doing the same dragon voice for that. I've been sick. I've got this cold. I've been sucking on cough drops all night and had a couple coughing fits. But I think that helped to give me that deeper voice. I mean, I already have one. But to really just... And I wanted to say this, too, because Chad brought up a point kind of in our chat. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Chad.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
But you mentioned at the beginning, you said that my intro threw you off and that you kind of came in, you were just a little off kilter and a little nervous at first. if I mentioned this, I think in a hangout or somewhere else, if you go back and watch the first game I ever played with you, we played Convokers, I think, in Mike Lasham's, Mike the Piper's
The peace
Convocation
was it the
game.
peace was that the Peacemaker game? The
Oh yeah, the
Convocation
Peacemaker
game?
thing. Yeah, it was you, me, Marquise, and Chris from Drop Dice, and I felt like I had no business playing with you guys. I felt like I was the freshman that accidentally got assigned to the varsity team. And if you watch that game, my character is super quiet for the first part of the game because I had DM'd a few times, but I hadn't played much online. And I was super intimidated by all of you because of the caliber of role playing that you brought. I have learned, both as a player and as a DM, I have learned much of what I have learned from watching so many folks in this community. The four of you that are on here now, but there's so many people in our community that are stellar role players of different, I don't even want to say different calibers, but of different styles. They bring different things to the table and unique ways of presenting their characters. I gotta tell you, and you can pass this on, James, one of my favorite scenes of any character is in the spoiler alert, but in one of the older episodes of The Winds of Sir Celine, the one where you guys were flashed back and you were playing as these other characters, and Cassie's character, she failed to save and she got killed, and she just instantly took that and the way that she portrayed that, not knowing that was going to be the result. These things aren't scripted because, you just rolled and you failed. Okay. And the way she went with that, there's just so many people in this community that I have learned from that have made me a better DM and a better role player and made me feel more confident about just inhabiting these characters, which is why I feel so comfortable in the level of immersion that I can bring. So it's a big compliment when you guys enjoy. Like I said, it's such a thrill to see your facial reactions at the descriptions or just at that little thing, which to me, I thought the way I play critical failures, I've always played them, is if it makes narrative sense, I'll have something bad happen. If not, I'm not going to have you break a talent or do something stupid just because you failed. You didn't trip. But because Tim rained fire down on him and you guys were in this snowy terrain, that's what came to mind. You'd superheat the snow, it would melt, and then it would instantly freeze. So that was your critical failure result. And Tim was just like, what? I saw his face. And it was just a lot of fun. You guys made this game a lot of fun for me, even though I hardly did anything in that last hour. So I realize now it's coming on 11:45 here on the East Coast, which all of us but Chad are in. I want to give a huge thank you to Tim and James from Tabletop Terrors, representing one half of Absolute Tabletop, whose Stone Rift game I will be running tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Mini Terrain Domain. Big thank you to Chad and Locrius for carving some time out of their schedules so that we could make this game happen. This was an absolute blast. I would like to give each of you a moment to plug anything you want to plug. Give me a quick couple sentences, a summary of your opinion on the game, and then we'll sign off. We'll start with Chad.
Oh man. So I'm currently almost out of words because honestly, playing with you guys is like playing with family, and the only people who I've had a closer bond with over the last 16 years have been Matt and Darren and some of the people that I have over in my home group. So thank you guys so much for just being like my online family for all this. My name is Chad Nick. I absolutely loved everything you did tonight, Jake. killer. You guys can find me over at gastrogamer.org, where I'm going to be posting up some reviews and video blogs eventually here on my YouTube channel that also goes by my same name. So you can find me on YouTube at Chad Nick.
Mr. James.
So, all right, guys, this is my cat, Sasha. She's got a YouTube channel. She doesn't want to, oh, there she goes, looking at the camera. She's a little shy, but she's getting used to it. She's going to GM for our home group. Jake, I'm so excited to see the Stone Rift game tomorrow. There's something that I love, particularly watching games that I am familiar with what is written, whether it's, you know, anything like what is it, Horde of the Dragon Queen, or any of those adventure paths. I love reading them and then watching how people run them. In this case, more so because I think that you will run it very well based on the subject matter, and you just have a very natural GMing style. And I'm extremely familiar with it because I helped write it, and I've read it through probably 50, 100 times. So I'm really excited to see that. I really cannot contain my excitement for that. So I'm going to try to watch it live, but no matter what, I'm going to watch that game because I can't wait to see it.
Excellent. Thank you. Locrius.
I turned my camera off instead of unmuted. My name is Locrius. Hey, do you like Dungeons and Dragons weird monsters? Well, you're in luck because I make some videos about them at a YouTube channel called Locrius Planetoid. I think that's what it's called. I should know it's my damn channel. Jake, listen, man. This was a great game. Your narration was top notch. It was so immersive. I had an absolute blast. It was really, really fun. Chad, you know, man, I'll play anytime you want to play, man. It's great. We love playing together, man. It's great.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow, dude. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, dude, tomorrow, yeah, we'll rock it. Tim and James, thank you for coming in and trying to whip our ass with some gnome brothers that probably should have been a little bit more powerful, but you still put the hurt on us. Check out Stone Rift at Absolute Tabletop. And if you do check out that supplement, what I want you to do is go to YouTube and search for Overkill Skull Crusher. There's an old school thrash band called Overkill, and they have a song called Skull Crusher, except when you listen to it, instead of Skull Crusher, I want you to sing Dwarf Crusher, because that is the song that I sing in my head every time I see that Dwarf Crusher giant from Stone Rift, because that thing is awesome. Okay, I'm Locrius. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
And finally, Mr. Tim.
Hey guys, I am Tim, and I am half of Tabletop Terrors with mi hermano, James. Locrius, I just want to plug how awesome you are. Dude, who else but Locrius listens to the band Overkill? I love that. Dude, that album it's like a big skull bat.
You know what it is? It's a vargoyle. You know, there's a monster for it. It's a vargoyle. It's in Volo's Guide to Monsters. Every time I see, there's a name for it. I forget what their mascot's name is, but he's a flying skull with wings. It's a vargoyle. He's on every Overkill album.
Dude, I love that so much. Oh my god. So yeah, so check that out. And it's so like slow and like thrashy, and they sing like this. It's awesome. Anyway. So yes, check out Stone Rift as Locrius has mentioned. But also, hey, if you like hearing a fatter guy and a thinner guy talk about D&D, then go check out Tabletop Terrors. We just have fun videos that are fun to listen to, and we'd love to have you subscribe. And we love you all. And I'll throw it back to Jake.
Just as I have another coughing fit. Yeah, so once again, I cannot say enough how much I appreciate all of these guys for not just this game, but everything they bring to the community. A huge shout out to several people that have been hanging out in the chat pretty much for the whole time. I think Rob was here from Performance Check the whole time. We already talked about him earlier. He runs the Lore Keepers game that we've got quite a few of the cast of Lore Keepers here. So you want to check out Performance Check for sure. Check out the Tabletop Terrors video. Check out, get on the Tabletop Terrors Facebook page, because if you like seeing Tim Carney's mug on this channel just now, you get to see him pretty much every day on Daily Damage over on the Tabletop Terrors page. And I try to tune into those whenever I can. James and I are players in Mike the Piper's Ascension Numenera campaign. Locrius and I are going to be playing in Jarl DM's Viking campaign next year. There's a lot of games happening. I've got the Stone Earth game tomorrow, and then you're not going to see a whole lot from me game-wise for the rest of December because my wife is wondering where I am this week with all these games. But you can tune in right here to Mini Terrain Domain if you're watching live on December 15th at 9 p.m. for about 90 minutes. Nate from WASD 20 and I will be painting Barnabas Frost, the pirate captain from Reaper Miniatures. We're going to do a live hangout. And then the following week, we're going to do a live hangout over on WASD 20. It's a new, probably irregular show that Nate and I are going to do painting miniatures. So check that out. Head over to Absolute Tabletop official group on Facebook. Check out Mini Terrain Domain on Facebook. Check out Locrius and Planetoid on YouTube. Just check out all the things. As always, thank you for tuning in. Remember to imagine, build, play, and of course, Mitade.